Been a civil war waging for the last 2 years, and those asylum seekers or economic migrants who make it from Sudan to the UK have a 99% chance of being given leave to remain. So I spent several hours talking to immigration chiefs here in Benghazi on the east side of Libya. The Libyan National Army has a very good grip on the immigration problem, albeit fighting against a huge crisis with limited resources. There is a very, very clear process of giving people proper health checks, the life-saving care that they need, and then working out where it is exactly that they've come from. Their message to the UK is that you are fueling this problem. You are effectively advertising a great new life for people from sub-Saharan Africa. They actually said, you know, what do you think happens when a guy from Sudan comes up through Libya and makes his way all the way to the UK and gets put in a luxurious hotel and provided with everything? And make no mistake, it is a perilous journey. We see it from the end point. We see the channel crossing as the dangerous bit. But actually where these journeys begin is in the hot desert. Many, many tens of kilometers have to be covered on foot by these migrants. And as many as 1 in 4 do not make it. That means bodies in the desert. The Libyan authorities are having to recover bodies in the desert. About the UK and how much awareness. Please understand the scale of what we are dealing with here with very, very limited resources. Once again, you know, people come in from charities, from NGOs, they use warm words, and the authorities here told me the only thing that we ever get is maybe a few toothbrushes and some nappies for the babies.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Very, very good morning to you. What is it? Just gone 6 o'clock. It is Tuesday, the 6th of January, 2026. A very good morning and welcome to the all-new Jeremy Kyle Breakfast Show. Somebody said yesterday, what was different? I don't know, the background. I'm still sat here. Listen, the most important thing about Talk, the home of common sense, is this is where alarm clock Brits and working Brits come to speak in the morning. So much going on today. We'll talk about it all. I don't mean to be disrespectful. We'll obviously touch upon Venezuela, Colombia, potentially Greenland, and whether Donald Trump wants to conquer the world. I get all that, we will. But there's so much, and I would never want anybody tuning in to think that this programme is merely centred on Sir Keir Starmer, but it really is. It's like winning the bleeding lottery every morning that you walk in to Talk. This is fantastic. Overnight, ladies and gentlemen, a post on X by Sir Keir Starmer claimed that his government was lowering your energy bills by £150 on average. I don't even know what this means, but honestly, Christians never look more excited. He's got his new Christmas jumper and he went, Jez, it's received a community note, which basically means the powers that be at X are saying, you're lying again, Sir Keir Starmer. The correction simply says it's important to note that when Labour first promised that, oh yeah, £300 reduction, the price cap was lower. So actually, the whole thing's complete BS. So Keir Starmer called out this morning by X by pretending to us that energy bills are going down. And actually, there's a bigger issue there, isn't there? How many times has this man either ignored his promises in his manifesto or basically said to us stuff that hasn't happened? He lied to the farming community. He lied to waspy women. He lied to us about energy. Yesterday, I side with Denmark. Sunday, I side with America. The man doesn't know where he stands. I know it's Tuesday. I know it's freezing cold. I know the snow is on the ground and most of Britain has ground to a halt. But Sir Keir Starmer Today, outed by X. As ever, if you want to be on the show, 0344 499 1000. Get your voice note in nice and early. We're primed and ready to go. 87222. Start your message with the word talk. And talking about that, so many things sort of gravitate towards it. When you read in the newspapers, we get Starmer. Let's talk about net zero and energy. Let's talk about, in the midst of everything that's going on in terms of the problems that we've got in this country, it's -10. I don't know where you're watching, listening or ignoring me this morning, but let us know where you are and how bad it is. Bear this in mind. Your energy prices are going up and almost every part of your public services are being decimated. And many people who listen and watch Talk, they say, it's because of our immigration problem. Let's take you to Crowborough. Do you remember that place in East Sussex where they're about to house 600 migrants in a disused army cadet base, basically? They said to the cadets, you better leave, it's not safe. But it's going to be safe for the good people of Crowborough. Hopefully, by the way, an important local person from Crowborough on the show later. Government announced yesterday that thousands of pounds will be spent upgrading the CCTV cameras in Crowborough, East Sussex. So let me get this right. You're spending thousands of pounds of taxpayers' money upgrading the CCTV in Crowborough because presumably that means you think that it's not going to be safe once the migrants arrive. But you're going to house 600 of them in the local community and sod what the people think. The world's gone mad. 0344 499 1000. Text to 87222. Later on, Robert Jenrick, Shadow Justice Secretary, good man, on from 9 o'clock. Ring Rob. It's creatively brilliant, isn't it? Ring Rob. He's on after 9. Get your calls and texts in nice and early. And also, just to get you underway today, sad news, ladies and gentlemen. Do we have any sad music? God, the production values have gone downhill. British Airways has decided to axe the full English. If you go business class, which many of you, and well, I don't ever go on a plane anymore because it's just too, never mind. Anyway, you won't, if you go business class, get a full English anymore. From tomorrow, passengers will instead be able to tuck into a continental plate. Oh, sod it. The airline said the measures were not a cost-cutting exercise, but ready for this? Would allow crews to spend more time with customers, because that's what you want. If you're starving hungry and you're on a plane, you want some dumb steward or stewardess having an inane conversation with you. No, I want a bacon sandwich, you bunch of idiots. It got us thinking this morning, maybe this is actually just political correctness gone mad. Full English, can't call it that anymore. What are you going to call it? Diversive petit déjeuner? Let's have your suggestions. What should we now call the full English? Because apparently that's being axed, because apparently that's wrong. 87222. Start your message with the word talk. Every morning at 6 o'clock they say to me, get somebody in to do the papers, because it's just a nice start. And we welcome this morning a legend, a titan, and a man who likes the country. James Price, good morning.
Well, good morning, sir. And on behalf of all of your listeners, congratulations on your new show.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much indeed. Lovely to have you here, me old son. And you've got the jumper over the shirt, which means it is quite... How cold is it out there?
I think it was -6 when I got in the car this morning.
Do you know, I had to walk 57 yards from my suite in that hotel across the... It was nippy. Nippy it was.
Well, I was on an inferior channel yesterday, something that rhymes with CBC, and I was up against someone from the Trades Union Congress who thought that it was important for her to descend from heaven to say to employers, you should tell people they don't need to go to work if it's snowy or if it's cold, as if no one had ever thought of this kind of considerations before. So I'm glad to be here with Alarm Clock Britain.
Thank you very much indeed. And Alarm Clock Britain, I start with that story about that post on X, because your mouth was dropping open. It's not just about Keir Starmer lying again. Think of how bad it is for the pensioners who have had their heating allowance taken away, for the people who are getting out of bed to go to work in really quite icy conditions. Yeah, you're right, trade unionists, all the people in the civil service, I think I'll work from home. It's cynical to say your energy bill is coming down when it blatantly is going up, you lying toe rag. It's a fact.
It's a lie, right?
It's on the screen there.
Absolutely extraordinary, this. I think what's happened is we all talk a lot about the effects of social media on politics, and there are some politicians who are coming up with this now, younger people who get it. There are some politicians, much older who also get it. I mean, Donald Trump, whatever you say about him, is a man who knows how to use social media to world-changing effect. But we have in Britain now still some generations of, let's call them analog politicians, to be polite about this, who just don't understand. You cannot get away with lying, just a blatant lie. Your bills are going down, they say, when your bills are going up. You can't get away with that anymore in the modern ecosystem. And one of the brilliant things that Elon Musk has done, he's done a few brilliant things with Twitter. I think one of the best of these things, as you say, called community notes.
That's what he got. I mean, I didn't even know what it was.
Right, and it's actually not just the powers at Twitter that do this, it's ordinary users. So if lots of ordinary users look at this and go, that's not right, they can put this, it's sort of like a context box underneath, and they get to call them out. And there's no way that Starmer can get rid of that unless lots of other users look at it and go, oh, the note's not fair, the Prime Minister is right. And ain't nobody going to do that.
So let's just cut to the chase. 6:10 Tuesday morning. It is cold, it is difficult, you're all getting up to go to work. Our Prime Minister, let's remember what he said before the election when he promised a massive reduction in your energy bill. This was before Great Britain elected this man. Have a listen, have a watch.
Now, clean British power is, renewables, which is about a third of the price of fossil fuels at the moment, and that ought to bring down the household bills by about £400 for each bill. But that's a permanent drop. This is the big difference, I think.
A permanent drop. I mean, you're going, what's he talking about? That's blatantly lying.
Well, I mean, that's someone who obviously looks like he's lying, and you can see when you go back and watch his clip. I mean, he always looks like he's lying, even when he says things like, I love my country. But we'll park that one for a second.
Yes, do.
I don't understand why politicians think that they can lie to the public when the public understands basic natural laws, like the law of supply and demand. If you have lots of supply... if you have lots of demand, then supply needs to match it, right? So in this country, we have blocked huge amounts of energy generation. We don't do any fracking. Well, America does huge amounts of fracking, and their bills are sort of 2/3 cheaper than our bills are.
Let's frack.
We've stopped loads of North Sea oil and gas because mean and bad and naughty. OK, fine. Well, that means bills have gone up because there's less of it to go around.
I didn't want to start like
this. We're getting wires cut down by, across Europe by alleged Russian ships. Well, that makes it more difficult to transport energy around. We're putting in solar panels. OK, great. Well, it's not going to be light for another couple of hours.
It's not going to work.
So in Britain and in the Nordic countries, that doesn't work quite so well. So all these different problems. So what are you going to do? We have to get more energy sources going again. And then you get someone like Ed Miliband who comes and goes, oh, it doesn't actually work like that. And he's wrong as well. It's very, very simple. If you have lots and lots of something, then the cost goes down. If you restrict it, the cost goes up.
Absolutely.
I don't know why it would be any different from energy to houses, which we're going to talk about, to anything else at all. And the fact that Starmer either doesn't understand this or doesn't understand that he can't get away with lying anymore terrifies me for what everything else comes out of that man's mouth.
What's really interesting about what you said, and I'd love to hear from you this morning, Alarm Clock Brits, what do you make of him? You look at him and I just think you're lying. This is what the tweet said overnight. This year you will start to feel our promise of change. £150 off the energy bill from April. Your public services will be improved. Your community will see more funding. We're restoring local pride. We're getting Britain back on track. Let me cut this down, right? You will start to feel our promise of change, right?
So
150 quid off your energy bill has already been told by them by X. He's lying. He's got a community. I don't know what a community note is, right? Your public services will be improved. The only way they're going to be improved, by the way, is not more money, is to actually stop giving our public services or the use of our public services, be it their health service or to people who actually haven't paid a penny into a system that's supposed to sustain them. Your community will see more funding. Yeah, that's because we're going to screw you over council tax, because we told you we weren't going to increase council tax, but we're going to do that as well. We're getting Britain back on track. Honestly, the man is... I'd love to know what you think. I mean, honestly, I come here every day and I think, no, I'm not going to attack him. It's going to be fine. And then this idiot does something else that just is like money from... Honestly,
it is extraordinary, isn't it? I mean, people will study these sorts of things in days gone by and realise this is how you don't do politics anymore. And actually, the Conservatives' official Twitter account, their official response to this was merely... when he says getting Britain back on track, was a video of a train off a bridge and crashing. Well, that sounds about right.
Absolutely. Now, just on a light-hearted note, I did say the British Airways is axing the full English for business class passengers on some flights from tomorrow. You'll be able to get a continental option, full English. Now, I think this isn't about cost-cutting or spending time. I think this is another attack. I think this is a diverse attack on we can't call it full English. Good morning to Sean. So the full English breakfast madness, how about calling it the colonial breakfast or the evil empire breakfast, or replace it with soggy bread and gruel called the Keith Stalin Special? That's a good idea. Morning to H, they're on it now. Talk, full Monty, the Mega Builder breakfast, or the boil in a bag army breakfast. I've had a few in my life from a military vet. This man's yes, he is. Pete, good morning. Surely the full English must now be devoid of bacon in order not to upset Starmer's preferred demographic of voters. Good Lord. Hash up Browns after Gordon Brown's.
Very
Ed
good.
Benedict's can be renamed Eggs Traitor, and finished off with half-baked beans and an old tomato to throw at that idiot Starmer. Morning, Neil. Cheers. How about an imperialist platter?
I like that.
It's true, though, isn't it? Honestly, they're going to take everything away from us. But you can throw your suggestions in on that. 6:15. He lies on Twitter. We talk about lies. There's a great story, you just touched upon it, in the Mail on page 2. This is really, really surprising, ladies and gentlemen. Labour failing to build enough homes to keep pace with immigration.
I'm shocked.
Sorry, and again, I thought one of those promises in the manifesto was we're going to build 1.5 million homes. Oh no, she was sacked, Raina, wasn't she? Is it not fair to say that councils and politicians of all parties are responsible for, yes, I think we should build more houses, but not in my constituency. Yes, we need to build more houses and be more constructive where we build them. But surely if your country is being flooded with illegal migrants who are being given housing in front of, sorry if you don't like this, indigenous populations who have paid their money, you're in trouble, aren't you?
I think that's a fair point. But if you're Angela Rayner, as you say, she was sacked for this, but she doesn't understand because she got enough houses for herself, which is what I think she thought the job was.
Yes, but she's only got one now. There it is, from second page of the Mail. Labour failing. I mean, the house thing has always fascinated me because politicians of all sides have always said we need to build more houses. What's your take on this? I mean, I live in the countryside, you live in the countryside. I'm pretty sure there are disused petrol stations and areas in which we could build houses, but people won't have it. I think we've all got to soften our approach if we're going to build these houses, haven't we?
Yeah, so there's a couple of points here. I think one, on the legislative side, to get a bit nerdy about it, the Town and Country Planning Act of 1947, 1948, which basically prevented some of the big cities from being able to grow. Birmingham, for example, was the fastest growing, most dynamic city in Europe.
Dynamic.
And a ring and a kind of green belt was put around it to prevent it from growing because the Socialist Labour Party that came in after the war was worried that the success of Birmingham would mean this failure of other places. So even back then they were meddling in what could happen. And that's what we've seen in lots of places. So therefore it's very difficult to build houses where you want lots of people to be. If you've got cities, let's make some of those cities bigger so you don't have to encroach so much on lovely green fields and England's green and pleasant land and all the rest of it. And the second point of this is that we need to have very strict building codes that say that when you build stuff they should look beautiful. I think people wouldn't mind if that big empty field over there had the new city of Bath on it. It was beautiful stone buildings, been designed in a lovely way that looks nice and English and takes inspiration from the great buildings of history. People wouldn't mind that so much, except what you end up getting is horrible, ugly carbuncles like we got in the 1960s when, again, socialist planners tore down nice buildings. Come from Gloucester, was a beautiful place, tore down loads of the lovely buildings and put disgusting eyesores up. And I think the third part of it is the kind of social contract that we have in this country. We don't mind paying taxes when we think it's going to our fellow man, people who've also paid in, who've been down on their luck, or we've got the same ancestors going back thousands of years, or more recently people who've come along and totally abide by all of our values and believe the same sorts of things as us. We do have a problem when a beautiful bit of green and pleasant land gets concreted over to house people who've broken into the country, people who are 10 times more likely to commit the most violent and heinous crimes, if not more. We do have a problem with that, and I don't think it's right to suggest to people that this land of their ancestors or the land that they've made their home more recently gets turned into a disgusting, ugly carbuncle to house disgusting, ugly people with terrible values.
I couldn't agree more. I'd love to know what you think about it. It's a real debate, that whole housing thing, isn't it? I mean, you have to be, I think, in a position where we have enough housing, but it's a bit like the NHS in my mind. mind. We've got an older population, a much bigger population, and we don't seem, whether it's public services, whether it's housing, we don't seem to have the infrastructure, which is creaking anyway. But there is absolutely no doubt for alarm clock Brits and people who are up now on this cold and horrible morning are thinking, and they'll say it all the time to us, right? Why am I doing all this? Well, housing, you'll get social housing if you're an illegal migrant. Right. But if you've been on the list for a long, long time, not a chance. And I think it's a disgrace. I've said it for a long time. And maybe different from you, I get about England's green and pleasant land, but unfortunately, you also sometimes have to make practical decisions, and maybe decisions have to mean, they call it brown areas, don't they? I mean,
brownfield sites.
Brownfield sites. There has to be a discussion, but at the same time there has to be a discussion which says, why are we allowing people into a country so utterly readily that is on its knees? After the break, by the way, we're going to talk about the impact of immigration. We'll go back to Crowborough in East Sussex, where we saw many demonstrations where they're moving 600 illegal migrants in. It's 6:20. James Price is here. We just threw out, like we would do, didn't we, about, you know, the English breakfast, because it's the full English is being banned on British Airways from tomorrow on business class, right? This has driven them mad already. Good morning to Cliff in Berkshire. The Kia breakfast would be a large portion of tripe served on a large waffle.
Amazing.
And good morning to Reg Gardner. I don't know if he's a gardener or he's called Reg. I've no idea. He says the full English on British Airways is being axed because it's far too much sausage and bacon, and they don't want to offend other business flyers. Maybe. Morning, Mark. Without sounding ungrateful, Jez, when bills are over 200 quid a month for some people, how much impact will 150 quid off your energy bill be? Absolutely spot on. Dave, now this is going to cause consternation. Jez, for one, Rodney is probably correct. Energy bills will come down from April when the weather is getting better and we use less. But at least we have breakfast clubs, which is absolutely true. The breakfast clubs thing's a big thing for me. You know, they came to power asking for breakfast clubs for kids. As Mark, top button pusher, a legendary technician on this show, says, what about a bloody breakfast club for us lot? We're up early, there's no breakfast here. We get a banana if we're lucky. Are you allowed to say that anymore?
Well, so one of the best things I've ever seen someone suggest is that politicians should be banned from using the word free when they mean paid for by all the taxpayers.
Fantastic.
That would be transformational.
The Jeremy Carr Breakfast Show is free. It's not paid for by the British taxpayer, is it? That's really important.
There you go, yeah.
6:21, what do you make of it? Keir Starmer's been caught out by X for lying and saying your energy bills are coming down. No, they're not. Labour's being attacked because it isn't building enough houses, but it is allowing migrants to come into a house. And next we'll talk Crowborough in East Sussex. Back in 3, I'm off for a wee.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
There you are, my friend. 6:24 on a cold and frosty Tuesday morning. We're live across the UK on Talk. It's the home of alarm clock Brits. It's the home of common sense. It's Talk, and James Price is here. We're up in arms. British Airways is basically axing the full English for business class. People are outraged.
You're absolutely right. I mean, it's a great symbol. Mark Twain, I think, once said that you can eat well in Britain as long as you have a full English 3 times a day.
It's also a man who said that golf was the walk, a boring walk that you still hold that ball. I don't like Mark Twain at all. Are we allowed to say on air that one of your best mates is the director of comms for British Airways? I'd love to get him on. He's not having a good morning, is he, to be fair?
Well, you know, I will state he's done a great job at trying to get them to sort out various bits, but there is only so much one great man can do. I'm sure we'll get some good positive developments and it won't be left with just a sausage.
Don't forget,
no, continental
you're
breakfast.
not allowed to say that. 0344 499 1000 for your voice notes. Morning, Pete.
Morning, Jezza. The only thing this government is lowering is our standard of living, lowering it right into the gutter, right? Because if they can't bring the third world up to our level, their plan is to take our country down to theirs, isn't it? As for Donald Trump, well, you know what? I can't understand why all these lefties are demonstrating. They all want open borders, don't they? Just like Starmer, their hero. Well, Donald Trump took that route, open borders, straight into Venezuela, out of a drug lord, one problem solved in a country, thousands of people's lives are not going to be made a misery by that man now. Let's hope the next one that takes control now doesn't make their lives a misery. Good morning. I hope you have a great day. Don't be too cold later when you go out in that snow and ice.
Good man, 625. He sounded a bit like Michael Caine. But can I just say, right, so let's touch upon Venezuela. We might disagree about this, right? I think everybody knows that Donald Trump went into Venezuela for oil, right? Absolutely. But he also doesn't like being called a coward. And Maduro is a hell of a horrible human being. But there are many other dictators. And history will tell us that certain people get involved for their own ends. What I don't want to see happen, and I haven't gone soft in any way, is for the US to do that and then leave, and there to be another situation in another country, and there's already reports overnight of bombs and stuff like that, of issues. I can categorically say that the orange man baby at times infuriates me, but by God, I wish we had somebody with a pair as half the size of his in this country, and Starmer is a pathetic example of a leader in terms of that, but I'm not quite sure where this ends. We've had threats about Colombia, and overnight, of course, he said he's going to go into Greenland, which caused Keir Starmer to come out quite... Have we got a clip of him defending Denmark? Have we got that clip, have we? Yeah, this is Keir Starmer, who's off the fence over Venezuela, but apparently in bed with the Danes, if that makes sense. Have a watch, have a listen.
The future of Greenland is for Greenland and the Kingdom of Denmark, and for Greenland and the Kingdom of Denmark only. And we're very clear about that. Denmark is a very close ally of the UK, both in Europe and in NATO, and it's very important that we stand by our ally.
James, I keep coming back to this. Does he even believe himself? He's getting worse on camera, isn't he?
I think he actually is getting worse. And again, for the comms team there, why put him in a room that's that busy that you can hear all that background hubbub so you can't pay attention to the guy?
It said Reading Berkshire, that's where I was born. What was he doing there?
Hopefully not stalking out your birth certificate or...
I was born in the front room of a house. Never mind, doesn't matter. I was.
And wearing these damn navy shirts that he wears all the time that makes him look like a kind of failed magician. Someone just needs to say, your Prime Minister, Lord Ali's given you that massive spending budget for nice clothes, go and get some. Now, I think on the broad point here about Venezuela, people criticise George W. Bush for full-scale invasions and nation-building efforts in Afghanistan and Iraq, and now they're criticising Trump for maybe not doing enough initially. Let's see how this plays out. Let's remember the United States has access to information and intelligence.
Do you think he broke international law, Trump? Because Nigel Farage yesterday said he probably has.
I thought that was pretty wet from Farage, actually.
Did you?
What is this international law? Is it here in the room with us now? What is law? Law is something that can be enforced, and you can understand who sets those laws, and you can understand, what the ways to change those laws. None of this stuff applies to international law. The only international law that really truly matters, if you follow the realist school of international relations, let's go back 2,400 years to the Peloponnesian War between Athens and Sparta. And Thucydides, who wrote the history of that war, said, "The strong do what they can, and the weak suffer what they must." That is the international law. That's what matters. And the only difference here is that now Trump is openly saying it. And some of these morons on the left should go, well, now that Trump has done this, maybe Russia and China might break laws. I'm like, yes, now I'm worried that after this, Putin might decide to illegally invade Ukraine. Oh, wait, no, he did that a few years ago when there was a weak leader in the White House.
And you know me, I'm about as left-wing as you, not. Does it change if you think of Farage's response, and yes, Maduro is and was an appalling leader and ransacked his country. I made my point about what happens afterwards, but is this about Donald Trump flexing his muscles? Is it beyond that because he can see what the world is doing in terms of Russia, in terms of China? Does it, in fact, bring him down? Is he now able to say Putin's disgusting, Putin's a disgrace the way he's come into Europe? If he's doing the same, I mean, the Greenland thing. I mean, Starmer refuses to say that Trump broke international law. I mean, and he's in sorry to bring it back to Keir Starmer again, but he's in an absolute pickle, isn't he? Because the socialists on the left, who seemingly like communist dictators, which I never quite understand, are up in arms. Here he is again, ladies and gentlemen. It's only 6:30. We've had him on 3 times already. Keir Starmer. I don't think Donald Trump... Look, sitting on the fence, he's got what's-its up his backside. Have a listen.
France, Spain, Canada, Germany, as well as the UN Secretary-General, have all said that the US has violated international law. Has the US violated international law?
Well, international law is really important. It's the framework, and it's for the US to set out its justifications for the actions that it's taken. But it is a complicated situation. It remains a complicated situation.
So you're not going to say whether you think
the most important thing is stability and that peaceful transition to democracy. That's what matters to Venezuela above all else, and that was the position we took before the weekend. It's still our position
so
now.
You're not going to say whether you think they have or haven't, just to be clear?
I'm going to be clear that I believe in international law. I've long been an advocate for international law. I'm absolutely clear that is the framework that applies. Okay. Obviously, it'll be for the US to set out their justification in relation to the action that they have taken.
You don't want to call it out?
Can I just... Sorry, I met her at the Reform Party Congress. Can I absolutely respect Beth Rigby there? Fan-bloody-tastic. Honestly, if he used the word clear more often, he's about as clear as a fog, isn't he? Honestly, he's got all the socialists going, this is a disgrace. We like communist dictators. That's a bit weird, isn't it? He's just pickled, man, isn't he?
Well, he hasn't got a clue. He's trying to triangulate, I suppose. And as Mrs. Thatcher once said, if you stand in the middle of the road, you get hit from both sides. He's got
what did she say? Oh, my God, that's my quote of the morning. If you stand in the middle of the road, you get hit by both sides. Exactly. God love her.
Exactly.
God love her.
And she, you know what she would do about this? She came out and she did actually say when Ronald Reagan did the invasion of Grenada, she did some in a nice sort of, we abide by international law, all the rest of it. She called up Reagan afterwards and says, don't worry, I didn't mean it. I know you had to do it to get rid of the commies. So, and this is the point. You've ever seen that movie No Country for Old Men?
No.
Based on the Cormac McCarthy.
Not watching that because I'll have to leave.
Right. It's a great bit, and there's a bit in it where the guy says, if all your rules brought you to this point, okay, where the guy's about to kill him, what use were your rules? So all these people go, oh, it's really good that Maduro's gone now, but it was done the wrong way. There's no right way to do this. They're under international law. What you've got is loads of Venezuelan people cheering, thinking, we now don't have to eat the zoo animals to survive. We don't have to flee the country. We don't have to suffer massive malnutrition because of this evil communist dictator. And the reason the left is, by the way, angry, because it's one fewer communist dictator for them to cozy up to, frankly. Now we're going to get a world in which America can sort out the Western Hemisphere quite quickly. Let's hope that the evil communist regime in Cuba falls as well. Crucially and strategically, Venezuela has the world's largest oil reserves.
Yep.
Right? It should be Dubai times 10. It's not because of communism, but what this does, hopefully, if they can sort Venezuela out, is prevent the Chinese from getting access to sanctions-free oil. If something similar happens in Iran, which also has massive reserves, likewise. So what you may find this is a long-term geostrategic attempt to prevent World War III. And I suspect that given that the Americans have a huge amount of intelligence, they know all the defence materiel that China has put into Venezuela. They know about all the other funding and infrastructure. They know about the fact that Iran has goddamn Hezbollah training camps in Venezuela, not that far from America. Maybe these guys with all these amazing intelligence assets know a little bit more about what other world leaders are thinking and plotting and planning than the commies who are out chanting on the streets of Western countries.
I love how good you are, but like me, you would very quickly, because I want to move on, you would agree that it's what happens now, right? We can jump up and down about, you know, the how that looked and the reasons behind it. even if you're Donald Trump, you don't want Venezuela now to launch into civil war, because that doesn't sort anybody out. There needs to be an answer,
Quite
right?
the opposite. And I suspect if you're Delcy Rodriguez, who is the new interim
who
president...
I think sold Maduro down the river. I don't care what anybody tells me.
I think you're probably right.
£1 million on that.
I suspect, unfortunately, it's not yet happened to me, but seeing the world's most powerful country, the most powerful country of all time, launch the world's most complicated and successful exfiltration operation, using 150 aircraft to go in there and cutters to cut down steel doors, to nab your boss and carry him away and parade him around the world, I reckon that would focus the mind somewhat, don't you?
Well, we said yesterday, well, I didn't, somebody said it and then it went completely nuts. Is it not possible for Trump's special forces to land in England at the dead of night and take Starmer out? I want to bring it back to a major story. It's in all the newspapers, and it's probably, it could get lost, this story, but it's really, really important. You'll know, peeps, the little village Crowborough in East Sussex. This is where there was a long-term army cadet camp which housed hundreds of army cadets. It became apparent a few months ago that the Ministry of Defence was saying to the cadets, we're moving you out because we're moving 600 illegal migrants in. We haven't processed them. We don't know who the hell they are. We're going to give them a phone and a credit card, and we're going to do whatever, because we want to make sure that their human rights are looked after. Don't start me. So we're going to move the army out, but we're going to move the immigrants in. Now, naturally, the people of Crowborough, as anybody I think would be, are concerned. Remember Epping. Remember, you know, a migrant hotel next to a comprehensive secondary school, and 2 girls were sexually assaulted. And the villagers, the people, very, very concerned, and very understandable. No, we're not having it. This is what we're doing, say the government. Overnight, we discover thousands and thousands of pounds, James Price, has been spent, I don't know if it's the council or the government, on upgrading CCTV in the entire village town of Crowborough, because there are natural concerns of what? What the migrant men, unfettered populations that's going to arrive, are capable of doing. Why would you put your own people at risk? And you're admitting they're at risk by putting those cameras in. Why would you not do the right thing and stop these bloody people coming to this country in the first place? Outrageous.
You are such a cynic. I'm sure those CCTV cameras are there so we can see how they integrate with the community and how they'll be doing local arts and crafts.
Sorry, are you on drugs this morning? Honestly though, man, do you know what I mean?
No, you're completely right.
Crowborough, it's a disgrace.
And here's the bit that really gets me. I think Crowborough is a site where people have started now to organise themselves into groups. I think you're going to talk to someone about this later on.
Yeah.
This is what happens when people perceive that the state loses its legitimacy and loses its control. I don't want to see, I mean, sure, these are very well-meaning people, and I'd probably be tempted to be in a similar situation if it was happening in my neck of the woods. But what we don't want to happen is to see people think that law and order has so totally broken down that they start to take the law into their own hands.
I'm going to take you on that. I completely agree. Nobody on this station or anywhere with an ounce of sense would want to say anybody should do that. But there is palpable fear,
Correct.
A sense of unfairness, a real, I think, in this country, amongst not just alarm clock Brits, but all over the place. People keep saying to us, right, Jay, the whole time, I do everything right, I get treated like... I'm sorry, that nearly rhymed. It could have been perfect. and these people are... Whether the do-gooders like what I'm going to say or not, they are unvetted. They are not families, you idiot, Darren Jones. They are young men who get rid of their documentation, come to this country because we're as soft as, we're back to that word again, and nobody knows who, where, why or what they are. For a council or a government to say we're spending thousands on CCTV cameras tells me all I need to know. They want to make sure that these people are doing the right thing. The right thing is not to allow them to set foot in this country. If that is, what will somebody say to me? Oh, that's far right. No, it's not. It's common bloody sense, isn't it?
Absolutely right. On the CCTV, what was that old line in the Cold War? Moscow rules was watch your back, but London rules was cover your bum. Should we say? And that's all it is.
Your bum.
Well, I think it was family programme, isn't it?
You can say arse, it doesn't matter.
There it is. And this is it. It's called a revealed preference, right?
Yep.
They'll say, oh, we're welcoming these people and we care about their human rights. And what they're actually doing, as you say, is, oh, my God, we're letting all these unvetted people in. We know nothing about them. I'm sure if they were really doctors and architects, we'd know. They probably wouldn't have thrown their medical licence into the channel when they illegally broke into the country.
Precisely.
And we know that they are disproportionately likely to commit the most heinous crimes. And so I can understand why people want to start organising and the rest of it. That is how the state starts to break down and lose its legitimacy. And the Conservatives lost a lot of legitimacy for not being able to deal with this problem. And it goes, actually, I think it's linked to the Trump Venezuela story. If your rules say that you have to let people who break into your country illegally, you have to give them money, literally money on cards, and give them phones and give them housing to protect them, even at the risk of your own people, well, what damn use are those rules?
At the risk of your own people. I've got a friend, actually, from Crowborough. I'm going to try and get on. If you are from that area, I genuinely want to hear from you this morning. I think it's an utter disgrace, and you can look at the headline and go, oh, they're putting CC, that's a good thing. No, that tells me everything I need to know, that the council and the government know exactly what these men are capable of. And, you know, all the do-gooders will say, oh, that's very far right of you. No, it's not. I've got teenage daughters, and if I was in Crowborough and I'd worked all my life and bought my house, I want to know that me and my family were secure. That migrant tracker, you saw it yesterday, we're almost at 65,000 migrants, illegal migrants who have come into this country. We can have the debate, can't we, about we should process them. I've said my bit, I've said it repeatedly. I do not think these people should be allowed to set foot in this country until they are vetted. And if that is so difficult for what used to be a country that could sort stuff out, I've nearly said that word again, then I just don't understand it. Listen, you're waking up. I know we're ranting a little bit. 20 to 7, Tuesday the 6th of December. The great story this morning is that Keir Starmer went on X overnight, formerly Twitter, to say your energy bills are coming down by £150 in April. X have done something called a community note, which is basically saying, listen, you lying git, it's not true. So not only do we sit here and say that Keir Starmer lies, I'm just being straight, now X are saying it. Morning, Tristan.
He says about bills are going to go down in April. That's when spring and summer starts. So obviously bills are going to go down because we won't be needing to have energy on all the time and have heating on all the time. God, he lies so much. It's unbelievable. It infuriates me whenever energy talk happens. It absolutely infuriates me because there's just no common sense.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
They are, my friends. A very good morning. It's Talk Breakfast. JK here until 10. James Price reviewing the papers. We don't mean to make it all about Starmer, but unfortunately he's done it again overnight. He's lied on Twitter. They've called him out. Morning, Carl.
Hi, Jeremy. Carl here from Coventry. We shouldn't be really surprised, should we, that Keir's been caught out lying? I mean, let's face it, he's been lying since he was put into power, and his cronies.
Another happy person. Honestly, they hate him. I mean, I've tried. And listen, Christian, I'm being honest. We have given, Jay, the Labour Party, who I used to speak to when they were in opposition on drive time regularly, right? Loads of them. Come, have the conversation. Yesterday in the Commons, I don't know if you saw this, with the whole Venezuela-Greenland debacle, they got onto it about 5:30. Every single person was there. Kemi Badenoch was there, Nigel. They were all there. The Labour benches were packed. The only person who wasn't there was the Prime Minister. And even Labour MPs, a great piece by Quentin Letts this morning, saying that even Labour MPs are going, where is he? This man... I mean, Quentin actually said he was back in Downing Street under his Mr Men duvet, hiding, going, this can't possibly go on. But it does speak volumes about the man. But somebody here, I think it's... it's Burb here from Bradford. On my way to work in Leeds, home tonight at 6 o'clock, guys. 150 quid off my energy bills. Yeah, it's great. That's £2.88 a week. Woohoo. And another thing, how dare he tell me what being British is? I'd love to see that git in a proper English boozer with proper Brits, bloody oddball. He doesn't think much of him either. Morning, Jez. Starmer says public services are going to get better. Ha-ha. Wiltshire Council are charging our bin... changing... Oh, don't get me on bins. Our bin collection from 2 weekly to 3 weekly, but my council tax is going up. Fly tipping will increase massively. How is that better off? Natasha, see, she's done it now. Christmas, council tax where I live has gone up 30%, right? 30%? Christmas, because my collection day was on Christmas Day, 3 weeks. 6 children. I have been to the Ruddy Tip. Christian knows this. He rang me and I was on my day. I have taken 16 bags, right? Nappies. I'm not trying to tell you what's in my rubbish. What the hell? It's like that whole thing. If you don't pay your council tax, you get real grief, right? And yet the services go out the window. We don't get our bins collected, but our bills go up. That is what's wrong with this goddamn country. It's outrageous.
Right. What most people want from the government is for them to keep the streets safe. Well, we're failing to do that. In fact, we're making it worse by importing all these people in from cultures where they're much more friendly with violence. Yep. They want us to be able to collect bins. Well, as people are writing in, and you know yourself, we're not even very good at doing that anymore. Street lights, I can see a couple on, and you want occasionally to be able to go and see a doctor. Well, struggling with that as well.
Yeah, struggling with that.
And yet there is just the most astonishing amount of money that gets raised in taxes and then gets spent, and we're still not even getting enough, which is why we're borrowing, and all that borrowing means is we're putting that onto the shoulders of our children and grandchildren. No wonder Starmer looks so bloody miserable all the time.
I would just like something to be happy about of a morning. Do you know what I mean? Good morning, Jez. James, loving your backdrop. Really? Oh, nice. He says, Starmer has said on his Twitter that our public services will be improved, and yet Sadiq Khan is talking about reducing or cancelling pensioners' free bus passes. I'm from London. It's an absolute outrage. Christina, great show, guys. Yes, we need more social housing, but only to our veterans and British families also. These illegals should be deported. See, she'd be called a racist, I suspect. Dan's in Lingfield. Been to Lingfield?
Not yet.
Great racetrack. Love it. Why do you think that you never hear the Green Party shouting about concreting over the Green Belt, but continue to support mass immigration? Their policies don't make sense. Let's have my daily dig at Zach. Is it Zach Polanski? No relation to Dan.
That's what he calls himself now.
Yes. The breast enlarger. Yes.
Hypnotits, as I've heard him described. Probably should give some context for that.
Oh my God, that's brilliant. So for anybody tuning in going, did James Price just say hypnotits? He did, and I'll tell you why that's brilliant, man. The leader of the Green Party, who want to tax everybody to about 70%, and he is such an idiot, by the way. He thinks he can literally fly to Moscow and go up to, have you heard this, to Putin and go, he's a very nice man, could you please stop bombing Ukraine? And Putin would go, absolutely.
Please give up your nuclear weapons.
Yes.
Oh, why didn't we think to ask that?
Why didn't we just do it nicely? This man used to be a hypnotist who's on his website said he could enlarge women's breasts, and possibly men's as well. I don't want to appear to be sexist. Interesting man, and people vote for that. Hughes in Basingstoke is alarmed to report that over 4,000 houses are planned to be built over a lovely local airfield at Popham. The local council seems hell-bent on the destruction of more greenbelt instead of pushing back to the government that cares diddly squat for the people. Hugh, Sawyer, I get it. But I'm slightly... that debate about houses we had earlier, it's difficult for me because I think we have to build them. Paulie Young, morning, Jez. Our local council is building 2 big blocks of flats overlooking a children's park. We are in Hillingdon, which has the largest amount of immigrants. So I wonder who will be going into those flats overlooking a children's park.
Yeah, I think the only thing that is going to work with this is a new government that comes in, a new right-of-centre government, whichever format that will take, and they will say, look, we're going to stop the boats. We are genuinely going to do this. We're going to pull out of all the ECHR and all that sort of nonsense. We're going to have to do quite a lot of deportations of people, as America has been doing as well, people who shouldn't be here. That will relieve some pressure. And then we're going to say at the same time, because you now know that these houses are going to go on your fellow Brits, where they've been here all their lives, they've become British through ascribing to the right kind of values, or their ancestors have been here. We're going to make those houses beautiful. We're going to do it in a way that is got local support, and we're going to do it in sensible places. I think that will have to be the deal to make this work, because actually the average house price has increased enormously ahead of what average salaries are. So in about 1990 or so, the average house was about 3 times average wages. It's now about 15 or something crazy. It's got totally divorced from it, which is why it's very, very difficult for younger people to ever get on that housing ladder.
Absolutely.
And I think the other bit about this is, if we make them beautiful, again, as I said this before, if you make it all look like Bath, you make it all look gorgeous and lovely, that would work. And if we put it in smart places, there's something that used to be called the Oxford-Cambridge corridor or arc or something. It's now called the Growth Corridor.
It's called the M4.
Right. That would be quite smart to do a lot more between Oxford, Milton Keynes, Cambridge. It's nearish to London. Yes, there are some attractive places there, but thickening some of that up so you can get good connections with London and back again,
but up north
in some of these great places.
You've got to be able to build houses, man. You've got to be able to build. Can I just say that is the line of the decade? If I do 10 more years of radio, which is highly unlikely, hypno-tits to describe Zach Polanski is my favourite line in the morning, 10 to 7. Can we go to the Times? Because we've been talking about unvetted men coming into this country. We are outrageous human beings.
Terrible.
This is a Salvation Army worker responsible for refugees has been sacked after he said they should be sent back on a boat. This is a tribunal. I'll let you take this story over. It's brilliant.
It's absolutely... I mean, every line of it gets better and better. I mean, first of all, I'm surprised the Salvation Army is still allowed to be called Army, frankly. Isn't that very evil and terrible? It should just be called the Salvation Friends or something.
Salvation Friends.
Salvation Friends.
Yeah, let's rename Army. That's far too aggressive.
This is a chap called Charles Markey. He's 56 years old. He has been working there for a long time, presumably.
Free of charge?
Yep. Presumably quite a decent bloke, and says something that I think sounds fairly sensible. If people break into this country, they should go back again. The two most wonderful things about this was that the person in charge of this, the sort of HR woman, her name is literally Karen Good. Which is just perfect. And then this guy goes to this tribunal, and they said, you sure? What do you mean by this? And he says, yep, the lot of them. So good on him for that. And then finally he says, fine, sack me. Don't sack me for gross misconduct, though. Right? Sack him for be honest about why you're sacking him, that he's saying something. And the last bit about this, it says that his colleagues were shocked by this. And you can just imagine that all these people...
Shocked by what?
Shocked by him saying that illegal immigrants should go back. Well, I think illegal immigrants should go back to...
And I think illegal immigrants should go back, and I'll go absolutely further, and I think I've said this to you before, and I make no apology. It's a new year. I think that we should, and whether Nigel Farage becomes the Prime Minister or not, we should condition and get one of the biggest liners, rip it out, do it nicely. We should train crack team of 2,000 border immigration officials over a year-long period so they know exactly what they're doing. I think the Navy should be in the water. No ship should get to the shore. These people should be picked up off their boats, put on this massive liner. They should be processed within 24 hours. And let me say this, right? If they've reasonable reasons or whatever, come in, red carpet. If not, you are not coming here. You are not coming into this country. You are going to be taken to a detention centre that won't be very nice, sorry about that, and you will very quickly on your mobile phone that I won't be giving you, OK, be telling your friends that it isn't a soft bleeding touch that it's become. I don't think that's outrageous. I don't think that's far right. I think that's common sense.
Do you know who else doesn't think this is outrageous or far right? Tony Blair. Right? Not someone who's known for having terribly tight when it comes to our borders, given the huge, the enlargement of the European Union. We could have had a break on people coming in. He said, no, come on in, you come. Was it Peter Mandelson or Alistair Campbell, one of them, who said, we want to rub the right noses in multiculturalism?
I saw Peter Mandelson yesterday.
Oh, dear.
I did.
Did you cross yourself and stuff your pockets of garlic?
I just looked in awe. There goes the X. I saw him, yeah. Very shocking.
When Tony Blair's back in 2005...
He wasn't having a wee in the street. He was inside the building.
Not this time.
No, not this time.
He talked about how many people making asylum claims were bogus. So today, 2/3 of asylum claims or so are successful. What was it back 20 years ago when Blair said this? 5%.
See, there you go.
That says it all.
Oh,
Do you
God.
think that in 20 years people have got that much more needing of it,
No.
or they got that much better at gaming the system, and the system of the kind of blob has grown to become more permissive? Tony Blair said these people are largely 95% of them wouldn't be allowed in. Now it's 2/3 are allowed in.
Anna, what do you make of migrants?
Morning, Jez. Anna, sorry. So now we've both managed to come to the conclusion that there's no right way to move a wrong dictator. Can we apply the same logic to the illegals and the unwanted and the overstayers? There's no right way to move them. They're staying here in an unwelcomed fashion and an illegal fashion because the stupidity of the laws that we abide by allow that. So let's start being a bit tougher on immigration, Jez. There's too much niceness about it at the minute in the MSM. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back, my friends. 3 minutes to 7. James Price. So we've talked about Starmer being outed by X because he's a liar. We've talked migrants. We've talked about the need for more houses. We've talked about how the British Airways full English is being axed. We might get one later. Let's finish. Front page of the Telegraph. Rachel Reeves blocks cash for struggling pubs, despite the fact we know that that sector, bless them, have been decimated since the horrors of the pandemic. This government doesn't understand small business at all. It is destroying the hospitality industry, isn't it?
Yeah,
Big
absolutely,
time.
absolutely right. And look, what do you like more? And I know some people will be doing dry January. They shouldn't be doing dry January because you know who one of the founders of it was? Alistair Campbell. Just putting that out there again. So hopefully everybody goes to a pub this evening.
That'll make me go and get drunk.
Exactly right. And I'm all right because actually Alex on Twitter sent me a message at Talk TV. Love listening to James Price. I'd buy him a pint any time.
How do you know it's him? It could be Alex the woman.
That's a very... Oh, yeah, because actually the picture is the guy from Clockwork Orange. So
absolutely.
Who knows?
You're very unfair.
So I'm all right. I've got 1 pint in the bag here. But for everybody else, the cost of pints are up massively. And it's not because it costs a lot of money to brew beer. We've been managing to do that for thousands of years.
Of course.
It's because the huge amounts of tax and duties. Because they say, oh, you mustn't drink. It's very bad for you. Think about the NHS instead. And I think one of the former chief medical officers used to say, every time I look at a glass of wine, I think about cancer. And for God's sake, if maybe these people
I've had
did
cancer, and
have a
every
few
time I
bevies.
look at a glass of wine, I think, thank God for that. It's true. What a load of... What is wrong with these people? They are, though, very quickly, that whole small and medium-sized business, which I call the heartbeat of Great Britain, that creates jobs and money permeates down and people benefit, is being decimated by this government.
Absolutely right. They don't care about this. How many people around that cabinet table have ever actually worked for or run a small business? How many of their parents have done that? Either, I suspect not so many either. They're all public sector people. The only person who's got any private sector experience is Rachel Reeves, and she lied about how much she's got on her CV. She's still got more than all the rest of them.
You'll be back next week. We love having you on. The amazing and excellent James Price. So, Keir Starmer outed by X for lying. It's not great. Migrants in Crowborough. CCTVs have been put up because they're worried about migrants. Well, that's what I reckon anyway. BA are cancelling the full English breakfast. We're not building enough houses. And if you own, go to or even interested in your local pub, it's going to be screwed by a Labour government that doesn't give a damn. It's breakfast. It's Jeremy Carr. We're here until 10. If you want to be on the next hour, we're going to kick off with Brendan O'Neill. 0344 499 1000 for your voice note. And text throughout the morning, 87222. Start your message with the word talk. Thank you to James Price, and stand by. The news at 7 is next.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hey, very good morning to you, my friends. What is it? Tuesday, the 6th of January. We're live across the United Kingdom. Talk, of course, the home of common sense and free speech, and the home of work clock pittance. Can I just say, Alarm Clock Brits, I was sat here thinking to myself, are you working outside today? How bad? And we're all moaning about sitting in a studio or sitting in our office or whatever. Shout out to everybody who's working outside today. Where are you? What are you doing? How cold is it? How are you surviving? And what do you make of all these people who... yesterday, that story. All the civil servants working from home because it's snowing. Let's give a big shout out to the working outdoor lot. Good morning to you. Listen, so much in the news today. We were telling you at the top of the 6 o'clock hour, Keir Starmer. I know people say all you do is say lies. It's not. Listen, we do our best. But overnight, a post on X by Starmer, which we'll put up. I'm going to read it to you. This is what he said. He went, "This year, you will start to feel our promise of change. £150 off your average energy bills from April. Your public services will be improved. Your community will see more funding. Restoring local pride. We are getting Britain back on track." He wrote that last night on Twitter. Yeah. Very immediately, Twitter, X, corrected him. It's called a community note. I've no idea what it means. It says it's important to note this is a lie. When Labour first promised a £300 reduction in energy bills on the 1st of June 24, the price cap stood at £1,570. Today it stands at £1,758. A £150 reduction means that bills will still be higher. So not only is the man lying to us on television, he's lying to us online. Your thoughts on that? We'll talk absolutely about the migrant situation, that story I was telling you about down in Crowborough, where they're housing 600 illegal migrants. That's caused outrage locally. CCTV cameras have been put up by the local government, council, whatever, which for me and anybody with a brain cell would tell me that they expect trouble. So why don't they do the obvious thing and stop these people coming to our country? Is that outrageous? Labour isn't building the houses it said it was going to. There's a shock. They're not supporting pubs. That's going to be decimated. There's a shock. But even more shocking news this morning, and we hope to speak to the director for comms at BA. BA is axing, ladies and gentlemen, the full English breakfast for business class passengers from today. You'll only be able to have a continental plate, the full English. Now, they say they're axing it, not for cost cutting. It's so that crews, why am I doing that voice, can spend more time with customers. Because that's what you want, isn't it? When you're on your plane, falling asleep, feeling hungry, you want some idiot coming and saying, "Oh, are you enjoying your flight?" "No, I'm bloody starving. I want a full English." I think there's a bigger thing here. I think the full English is politically incorrect. So I'd love your suggestions. What are we going to call it? Le petit déjeuner, the divisive déjeuner. That's the only thing I've got, a divisive déjeuner. 87222. Start your message with the word talk. Loads to talk about. Jay, good morning.
Morning, Jezza. Good show as always. And I just want to say, look, people are scared, people are worried. Women are scared, women are worried. The amount of attacks that have gone on, the ones that have been reported that we know about, there's a lot of them. Think of the ones that haven't been reported. But what I want to say is, we know the word racist just gets thrown around. It's not about racism, because a lot of Brits will turn around and say, the Afghans that helped us in Afghanistan and work with our military and are recommended by our military that work with them day in, day out, get them over here, get their families over here. No one's got a problem with that. Let them join up with the British forces if they've got a skill. You know, if they are a genuine engineer or doctor or, you know, a medic or a, you know, interpreter, something like that, let them join up. We need the numbers. They're keen to help, and, you know, they speak 2 or 3 languages, probably, them people. So, you know, English anyway, at least. You know, so roll on with it.
Very interesting. Your thoughts on that, your thoughts on the main news, and we're delighted to welcome now, I love this man, I'm always delighted to have him on, chief political writer at Spiked Online, Brendan O'Neill. Good morning, my friend.
Hey, Jeremy, how you doing?
I'm good. Welcome to the new Jeremy Kyle Breakfast Show. You OK?
I'm good, thank you. I'm happy to be here.
Good. Mate, oh, we used to rant on drive time and we're in the same position again. Have you seen this post from Sir Keir Starmer overnight? Have you heard this story?
Brilliant.
I mean, it is a blatant lie. And actually, James Price made a really salient point earlier, which is you can't lie anymore because social media is so ingrained in all of us and almost everything we do that when you say your average energy bill will be £150 less than anybody does a check, it's an absolute blatant lie. And I think energy and the price and the cost of energy and what Labour want to do and, you know, bring out wind farms, screw the farmers, have to import it because it doesn't make enough. You know, I mean, look, it's dark outside. It's ludicrous. The whole thing's ludicrous. I think it's a real gripe with the British people, don't you?
Oh, yeah. He's telling porcupines again, which is not the first time Keir Starmer has done that. And the great thing about X, of course, I don't use X, but I can see from that image that you've shown that you have these community notes where people can now say, listen, he's talking nonsense. What he's saying is not correct. So it's like politicians being corrected by the masses in real time, which is a politician's worst nightmare. They never thought they'd have to live through that. So, yeah, he's just telling porkies, you know, they're not going to improve the standard of living. They're not going to protect our borders. They're not going to smash the gangs. They're not going to fill any black holes in the economy, whether they exist or not. They're not going to grow the economy. They're not going to do any of the things they promised. And that has dawned on millions of people over the past year. There was I don't know if you saw it yesterday, there was a latest opinion poll, and it basically said that Nigel Farage, despite the criticism recently, I have to say, is heading for Downing Street. It was a 16,000 person sample yesterday, 381 seats. You're a political writer. Let me ask you, I mean, I was going to say, can you get inside Keir Starmer's brain? I'm concerned there isn't actually one. But do you think that I mean, yesterday didn't turn up in Parliament with the debate about Venezuela and Greenland. It's almost as if, you know, today's off to the that's another thing that does my head in. The Coalition of the Willing are having a meeting in France. What about the coalition of let's give a damn about what's going wrong with this country? That'd be a good idea, wouldn't it? He doesn't seem, I mean, I watch him increasingly and is he running scared? Is he out of ideas? Does he know the truth? Because there was that interview with Kunzberg on the BBC on Sunday where you'd think the guy he said, we'll be here in a year's time. He can't honestly believe it. He's bunkering down, isn't he? You know, at the moment, I think Keir Starmer is a weird mix of absolute panic and complete arrogance. So you have that arrogance where people like him think they are the natural born rulers of this country, that the Labour Party and possibly every now and then the Tory Party are the only parties that should get to run this country. They have that kind of arrogant streak in them. And Reform is about to upset that beautifully, whether they sweep in the local elections or hopefully get to Downing Street. They're going to prove that people actually want something different. But he's also gripped by panic at the same time. He recognises that things are going wrong. And in fact, the only thing that Keir Starmer has going for him at the moment is the inertia and moral cowardice, to be frank, of the Parliamentary Labour Party. Because there are unquestionably people in the Parliamentary Labour Party who know that he needs to go, who know that he is catastrophically unpopular, who know that he is failing the public time and time again, but they just don't have the cojones to do anything about it. They don't have the nerve to push. They don't have the guts or even the principles or the vision to replace him with something else. So that's literally Literally, the only thing keeping Keir Starmer in Downing Street at the moment is the absolute rubbishness of his own parliamentary party. And he must wake up every now and then and realise that and be quite shocked by it.
And actually, politics is a weird and dirty and filthy game, because you can see the vultures gathering, but you can also see that it's all about self-interest. And is it the right time to go now, or do I wait till May? If you're Wes Streeting, do you try and usurp Andy Burnham if he gets in? If you Angela Rayner, you're buzzing around. Well, you're not. You're in Hove, aren't you? But it's fascinating. But I think it's not fascinating, actually. It's frightening, because what really worries people is the fact that alongside all of that, it would be fair to say that this country is sliding, not into oblivion, I guess all that, but I do think the people that say, Great Britain, all that, we are, we've got creaking public services, we've got borders with unvetted males coming in willy-nilly, we've got a health service on its knees, we've got a welfare system that seems to benefit anybody that shouldn't benefit from it and who hasn't paid into it. We haven't got any police on the streets, we've got knife crime and general crime going through. There's a story today about housing, there's not enough houses being built. It's just... in my 60 years, I've never ever felt, maybe it's because I'm more invested in it because of what I'm doing now, but I've never felt that we're in such a dire position. And we seem to have a Prime Minister who's sleepwalking to oblivion without even the remotest idea of how bad things are.
I completely agree. I feel the exact same. I can't remember a time when I've ever felt so sad, if I'm going to be honest.
It's a good word.
About this country and about the state that it's in, and about the fact that nothing seems to work, and yet we're paying more and more money for this stuff in terms of local resources, high streets, everything else. Our taxes are going up, but the stuff isn't working in the way that it should. Our borders are completely broken. Young men are pouring over them every single day, except when the weather's bad. The only thing protecting us from these foreign men from regressive cultures, in large part, the only thing protecting us is the weather, and certainly not the government. The government is completely visionless, doesn't know what it's doing. As you say, it's just a backstabbing fest driven entirely by self-interest, not even by factional disagreements over the future of the country, which is what used to split parties apart. In this case, it's just personalities. It's just self-interest. It's just who wants to come out on top. It's so vicious and kind of monarchical the way they're fighting. So we have this country that's not working, a government that isn't really there, borders that are completely broken so that the national territory itself is completely open to anyone who wants to come here.
It's true.
This country is not working, and we need radical change. And that's, I've said it before, I really admire the patience of the British people. I think a lot of people out there are biding their time. They're watching things in the way that you and I are watching them, and they're saying, listen, the next time I get a ballot paper in my hand, I'm going to strike for change.
I think that's a really interesting point, actually, because I think we can both say at our ages, we've never seen it like this. But I do think, and I do it every day and I make no apology for it, I think you can go back to this text I had before Christmas from a guy, and he simply said, I believe the silent majority are waking up. And whenever you say that, people go, what are you saying? I'm not saying anything. I think you're absolutely right. I think the uniparty experiment is done. I think at the next election, starting in the May elections, the British people will show that their voice not only deserves to be, but should be absolutely heard. Can I bring you on to a story, my friend, that I mean, it's not actually got that many column inches, but I think is frightening. If you are tuning in, there's a story. I mean, you'll know Crowborough in East Sussex. This is the Village Peeps, that just before Christmas, the local government announced that, well, actually also the major government, that it's the base to a rather famous cadet training area, Crowborough. They're moving all the cadets out to make way for 600 illegal migrants. Cue much demonstration locally, which I completely support, because these people are saying, well, hold on a minute, what's going to happen? These men are unfettered. We're worried about our daughters, our kids, our infrastructure. Completely understand that. We've discovered, a little story in the newspaper, Brendan, thousands and thousands of pounds is going to be spent upgrading 16 grand's worth of CCTV cameras throughout Crowborough and East Sussex, basically, which is, as we said, set to house hundreds of migrants. My question to many people this morning was, so the taxpayer down there is going to be paying to install the highest, most modern CCTV cameras in a little village in Sussex. And why are they doing that? The only reason can possibly be they are terrified about what these migrants will be. And while you think on that, Alison, what do you make of this, by the way?
Morning, Jeremy. Regarding migrants, my argument has always been that we shouldn't let them land. But there seems to be a problem with that, and maybe it's because we might break some international law. Ha ha. Anyway, regarding Crowborough, it's a camp, therefore I can see fencing around it anyway. Why can't we electrify the fence, put a tracker on every single migrant so we know exactly where they are? Then the town will feel safer. Then the CCTV that's put up is actually going to be more detrimental to the residents than it will be for anything else. They're going to be watched 24/7. That's the wrong way round. Anyway, this is Alison in South Wales.
I'll tell you
Bye-bye.
exactly, Alison, and I'm sure that my good friend Brendan will agree with me. You couldn't possibly put up cameras and stuff like that. Tracking, this is human rights, for God's sake. These people have more human rights than the people that live in this country. Is it not right to say, without getting on my high horse, Brendan, just don't let them come into the bloody country in the first place?
I completely agree. I think Alison is absolutely right. We're getting things entirely the wrong way round. So instead of policing our borders and keeping out people who shouldn't be here, we're policing Britain itself. We're policing these local communities. We're putting up vast numbers of CCTV cameras, which, by the way, Jeremy, you're absolutely right, that indicates that they think there's going to be crimes committed by these men from overseas. But it also, on top of that, it indicates that actually these local councils don't trust their own local population either. They'll be watching them as well, make sure they're not protesting too much, make sure they don't shout if they see a migrant in the street and all the rest of it. It's just creating these layers and layers of authoritarianism in this country because the government can't get a hand on our borders. So instead of keeping men out who shouldn't be here, they're policing the country itself and punishing us, the citizens. That was one of the reasons that Starmer gave for the ID card. He said we all need ID cards in order to prevent illegal immigrants from working. So because they can't fix the borders, they are enforcing authoritarian measures on the rest of us. It is entirely the wrong way round. And I completely agree. People who come here illegally should be kicked out.
Can't police the borders or don't want to police the borders. If I lived in Crowborough, you know, I've listened to the left, you know, they'll go, this is outrageous, these poor people. It drives me to distraction, right? Darren Jones, you know, what is he, the Cabinet Secretary to Keir Starmer? That's career ending, isn't it? He went on that Question Time, didn't he, before Christmas and said, no, 90% of the people coming over are women and children. Look at the footage, you idiot. No, these are young men. Drop their details, we don't know who they are. They come here because A1 were as soft as whatever, and we give far more than anybody else, but not to those who deserve it. If I lived in Crowborough, if I lived in Epping, if I was a parent, I would have every belief and right to go on the streets and say, this isn't right for my community. And the fact that the government are updating at thousands of pounds for the cost the CCTV cameras, as you quite rightly said, says nothing more than we expect trouble. But then what do you expect from a government when the Epping Hotel was closed? Fair play to that council. Took its own council to court and said the rights of migrants were more important than the rights of the locals. I mean, that should tell you everything you want to know about this government and where the British people stand, I think.
Well, that's the whole story, isn't it? That they prioritise the rights and the needs of these men from overseas over the rights and the needs of the people who were born in Britain and who've lived here for years and decades and centuries. That's the truth of it. They are prioritising the needs of these men from overseas. And you're right, you know, the idea that these are victims, the idea that they are poor little people who need our help. I mean, if you just look at the footage you can see now on the screens, these are young men, they're fit men, they're
Can't see a woman anywhere there, can you? Or a child? Not anywhere.
And, you know, they're tenacious men. They've gone through extreme measures to get to this country. These are men with a lot of drive, a lot of self-will, and they come from cultures that are often very regressive, that are often misogynistic, that are anti-Semitic, that are backward, if we're allowed to say that word anymore. And so you have these men coming to our country, and these local communities just don't want them. And the thing is, you know, this idea that it's racist to oppose migrant hotels or to oppose the arrival of unvetted men in an illegal way, that's not racist. No. These people who are protesting, for the vast majority of them, they are not racist. They simply want their communities to be safe and they want their borders to be policed. That used to be a perfectly normal thing for people to want.
No, you can't want that. I mean, somebody has sent a very interesting text which says maybe they are women just identifying as men. I've no idea. But at the end of now, just on a little light-hearted note, because we love having you on, we appreciate your time. Did you hear the story about British Airways overnight? They're axing the full English breakfast for business class passengers from tomorrow. Passengers would instead only be able to tuck into a continental fruit plate of yoghurt and a dried up pastry. The airline have said the measures are not a cost-cutting exercise. They are indeed to allow crews to spend more time talking to customers. As I said it earlier, you know, there I am on a plane to Scotland for a business meeting or whatever. I'm starving bloody hungry, but I want some inane person to ask me how my day's going. I think this goes deeper. I'm not trying to be conspiratorial. I don't think they want to call it the full English. Have you got any suggestions of what... I mean, what's it going to be called? I don't know. The imperialist platter, somebody said earlier? I don't know.
You know, I have to say, I find this story really depressing because I hate continental breakfast. It's one of my bugbears. I can't imagine why anyone orders a continental breakfast.
The continental breakfast is as dry as the French. I completely agree with you. Well, let's have a dry pastry. No, let's not, and say we did.
So that's it. That's the future for first-class passengers on BA. They're going to have a dry old croissant and have a good old chinwag with the members of staff. That's not what they want. They want to kick back, take their shoes off, and have a full English. That's what they deserve.
Couldn't agree more, mate. Great to have you on. Check him out as well. A chief political writer, Spiked Online, Brendan O'Neill. Thank you so much indeed. 7:21 live across the UK. Jeremy Kyle on Breakfast at Talks, the home of alarm clock Brits. We say a very good morning to Karen in Derbyshire. Morning, Kaz. How are you?
Good morning, Jeremy. How are you? And I owe you an apology. I couldn't make it the other week. I'd got pleurisy.
Oh, bless you. You better now?
Getting there. I'm on about the lying little toad of our MP. Sorry, our Prime Minister.
I was going to say, don't downgrade him. That'll be later on. This, by the way, from Karen, for people tuning in right now, is because overnight our Prime Minister put out a tweet saying your energy bills by April will be £150 cheaper. Even X have corrected him. It's called a community note. They've basically called him a liar, Kaz, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, would you like my bill? Same with that millipede. Mine is £2,500. I have to have it on permanently. I have been waiting 2 years for my council to repair my roof. I've got no felt in the roof, so the heat's just going straight through the roof. And for him to say my bills are coming down, the lying little worm has even took my heating allowance.
As a pensioner and as somebody who I know has...
I'm 62.
Oh, blimey. God, we're the same age. As nearly. There's somebody who's worked, presumably, and done her bit and finds herself in her place, as you said. Council haven't improved your roof, heat gets out, your bills are £2,500. And this is... Because I love stories like this. It's difficult for you right now, right? It's horrible. It's really, really cold.
Well, I get £971 a month. And I pay my gas, my heat, my water, my food out of that. And I got precisely... I'm usually left between £1 and £5 a month.
£1 and £5 a month?
Yeah. If it wasn't for my two daughters, I really would be in something street.
What do you say to the people who say that we should welcome all these unvetted people and they should be treated much better?
Take them in. You take them in. You sponsor them. You look after them. You do everything. My friend went to live in New Zealand. He was a policeman here. He went over there. He got sponsored for 1 year. He couldn't have anything free, nothing. After a year, they put a flag, a passport and everything in front of him. He swore allegiance to that flag. His kids have now gone over. They're in the army in New Zealand. One's in the police force in New Zealand. They don't want this country. It's not worth it. Our country isn't ours anymore. It belongs to them scum that keep coming across the sea.
When people, if somebody listened to this, you know, one of the do-gooders and said, "But Karen, you're being unsympathetic. You're being far right. You're almost racist the way you talk about these people." What would you say?
No. I've got friends of every colour, creed, sex, and whatever. I don't care what they are. You come here, we put you for 1 year. You aren't not allowed nothing. After 1 year, there's a flag, there's a passport, and you swear allegiance to our country. So if we need you in the army, if you're not prepared to do it, get back on that dinghy and get home. We don't want you. They've not come from a war country because they've come through France, Germany, Italy, wherever. Last time I looked, we weren't at war. Jeremy, did you do history at school?
I got a degree in it. I don't know why I said that, because I'm crap. Go on.
When we went to war with Germany in World War II, we put nets. They sunk them.
Yeah.
so that they couldn't land on the beaches. Why the hell can't we do it now?
Because we are obsessed with doing right by people who... listen, I just said it. You think about Epping, right? You think about a government that takes a council to court, a council that has successfully, proudly and correctly, in my mind, gone to court and said, this hotel, this migrant hotel, is a disgrace, it's unfair, 2 girls have been sexually assaulted, and the judge says, yes, you're right, we're closing it. And our government says, no, 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 no. The rights of illegal migrants do-gooders before you start. Their rights are more important than yours. It's disgraceful. Listen, Kaz, we love having you on, mate. We love you because the stories that you share are real stories, which is what this show is about. We thank you very much indeed. Karen in Derbyshire, you're a pensioner, right? Worked all her life, isn't well, gets £970 a month. Very happy, by the way, to pay my taxes. Wish she got more, wish she was better. Can't heat her house, had a heating allowance taken out. And Mr. Sakia, says overnight on a tweet, your bill will come down. He's lying, he got found out. I also did a shout out for people working outdoors. It's freezing today, -10. Morning, Dave.
Morning, Jez. Dave in Leyland. Just done a 6 a.m. boot camp in the snow, then it's off to work repairing cars outdoors. Have a great one.
Oh, I thought you were going to break. Thank you very much indeed. Sit.
The UK on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back, my friends. 7:30 Tuesday morning. It's freezing cold out there. JK on Breakfast at Talk. Thanks for tuning in. We're talking about Keir Starmer outed overnight as a liar by Twitter or X or whatever you want to call it. He said your electricity bills are going down. They said you're telling porkies, you're lying. There's a surprise. We're talking about migrants, Crowborough, East Sussex. They're putting up CCTV cameras because presumably they're concerned about what's going to happen. That'll upset a few. Housing, apparently Labour aren't building enough houses. Pubs, they're screwing the pub industry as well. And of course, the big story of the morning, the full English breakfast being axed by British Airways on business class flights. Apparently it's not a cost-cutting thing. It's about crews spending more time having a chat. I don't want to talk. I want a sausage sandwich. Morning, Dave.
Morning, Jezza. About the British Airways English breakfast, don't worry too much about it. It's quite glad it's going because it's absolutely disgusting. I had one back in the spring flying back from Oz. I know, first world problems. It was literally the worst thing I've put in my mouth.
All right, but sorry? It's the worst thing he's ever put in his mouth. 7:30, loads in the news. Of course, the Venezuelan story will not go away. Yesterday, Maduro, paraded by the Americans, went to court. He said, "I'm a prisoner of war," screams the headline on the front of the Daily Telegraph. Many people have lined up to criticise Trump, who's now making noises about Colombia and probably Greenland as well. Starmer's fence sat over Venezuela, but apparently he's going to stand with Denmark. I've no idea. What happened last night, though, was quite interesting. There was a protest. I'm going to have to control myself here. There was a protest outside Downing Street from a bunch of protesters who said, "No war on Venezuela. Please release Maduro. He's a good man." We've got a spokesman. Spokesperson. I don't want to disrespect anybody's pronouns. Peace and Justice Project. Samuel, is it Sweek or Squeak?
That's me, Samuel Sweek. Yep.
Samuel Sweek. How are you, sir? Welcome to the show. Sorry, so you were there in Downing Street last night in the cold, shouting and protesting. What were you protesting about?
Well, about thousands mobilised on Whitehall last night to protest the UK's silence on Trump's unilateral action. To essentially bomb Caracas and Venezuela and kidnap its sovereign leader. Obviously, there are many criticisms to be had of Nicolas Maduro, but the protest is about the US imperialism and picking and choosing which leaders it does and does not like and which states it feels it can and cannot intervene in. It sets a very dangerous precedent.
Listen, I freely said this morning, which might surprise you, that like you, he's a dictator. I fail to understand how so many on the left cozy up to socialist, Marxist, communist leaders who destroy their countries. But you're right in what you say. I think there's far more to it than Trump going in and simply strong-arming it. But the guy, yes, the guy is no good. Is it right for Trump to do that? There's a bigger issue here. But was this protest about the fact that the British government was fence-sitting and isn't stronger, or was this an anti-Trump protest? Straight question.
Well, I think, from my perspective, certainly it's on the British government's complete inaction. We watched Yvette Cooper last night in the House of Commons give a rather sickening display of fence-sitting, but also, hypocrisy. Obviously, the UK maintains democratic relations with Venezuela, as it has done for many years. So it's untrue to say that they don't recognise the legitimacy of the leadership.
Let's talk about that quickly. You said he's the sovereign leader. Is he elected? Because the elections were fake and false and contrived, weren't they? Everybody knows that.
Yes, of course, there are huge criticisms and questions to be asked there, but that's not the question for the day. It's about picking and choosing which leaders the United States wants to and does not want in power. A question for another day is, of course, how Nicolas Maduro has held on to power.
I'm not being picky. Why is that for another day, pal?
Because of the precedent that it sets, and Donald Trump's how he's spoken about Greenland, how he's spoken about Mexico. Where there are absolutely and Colombia too, where there's absolutely no questions about the legitimacy of their leaders. Venezuela is a test case of Trump's might, and we saw yesterday.
But you just said, I'm not being pernickety at all. You just said there is no question about the legitimacy of the leaderships of, say, Greenland, Denmark, Colombia, maybe we can argue on that. But you've touched upon it. The reason I'm not picking, I'm trying to make a point here. My concern is what happens to Venezuela afterwards. And like you, it was disgraceful that our Prime Minister yesterday was the only person not in the Commons at 5:30 when that insipid Yvette, is it Fielding? No, she's the one that does the ghosting. Yvette Cooper. I completely get you, right? Because he should either come out and say... But he's terrified of Trump. He's absolutely terrified of Trump. And Trump treats him like an absolute imbecile, which I'm afraid is another thing that does my head in, because internationally we look as weak as we've ever bloody well looked. I get your point. You've put it brilliantly. Probably Maduro should not be in power. Yes, it's all about drugs. Are there instances in the past where nations have gone into other countries and brought a man out who they don't like and said, "You're a drugs lord"? I don't know. But I will say this about Trump. Like him or loathe him, this is a man that does what he says he is going to do. My focus, and I agree with you in terms of what you're saying, right, is that we've got a Prime Minister and a government that doesn't ever do what it says it's going to do, and anything it does say it's going to do, it blatantly does the bloody opposite, whether it's sitting on the fence over Venezuela or telling people their energy bills are going to go down, which is a blatant lie. How would you protesters respond to the fact that thousands and thousands of Venezuelans were on the streets celebrating the capture of Maduro?
I mean, I would say that there were, of course, demonstrations that were, against the US unilateral action that was taken. Of course, I make no bones about it. There's many people who despise Nicolas Maduro, and of course, people who have left Venezuela who also feel the same way about Nicolas Maduro. But the point stands that the US has, it's been, by the way, on the point you made there, the US foreign policy in Latin America has been one of regime change with leaders that it doesn't politically agree with for many years. You can go back you can go back to 1973.
So it's not just a Trump thing then? It's not just a Trump thing?
No, it's been the consistent foreign policy of the United States for many years. Salvador Allende in Venezuela in 1973, in fact, he was killed during a regime change attempt. So the US and peace in Latin America and anywhere else is that's an illusion. And Trump has been very flagrantly clear, actually, in his remarks after Nicolas Maduro was taken out, that this is about oil. This is about letting US companies in and having free reign over Venezuela.
I don't think it's about you. I think it's about making sure that Russia doesn't get sanction-free and China oil. That's what I would say. Can I ask you? Sorry?
Perhaps, but there is certainly an element of US extraction of natural resources. No one's talking about now. Trump is not talking about the transition of power or recognizing the opposition government as the victors of an election. He was very clear that this was about oil.
Have you heard the story that they reckon that the woman who's been sworn in as the interim president, Delcy Rodriguez, there are reports this morning that she met with officials in a safe country, Qatar, some months ago, and actually might well be behind Maduro being ousted. And actually, it's very interesting. Can I just bring you back to last night's protest? There's old Jeremy Corbyn doing his thing. Can I ask you a question, right? Two things, and I'm not being disrespectful. I'm really glad to have you on. Why is it people like Corbyn, who are socialists and they have a right to be whoever they are, cozy up to communist dictators? I've never understood that. How does Chavez before Maduro, all of these people, how are they attractive to the left wing when they blatantly disregard everything to do with their people?
Interestingly, just on that point, Chavez, another example of US attempted regime change, but a mass popular mobilization behind him in 2003 brought him back to power after he was very briefly removed by a US intervention. And I don't think it's a case of cozying up to dictators. I think it's standing up. Our government could take a lesson or two from people on the left and actually stand up against people like Trump, who are lauding themselves over nations and asserting themselves as a dominant
But do you not
force.
think that our government should also stand up against communist Marxist regimes that destroy people's lives? Because we're standing up against Ukraine, against Russia. Why isn't he coming out against what Trump's doing? Is it the special relationship? Why isn't he coming out and criticising Maduro? Why do we have a leader that... did you believe, genuine question, right? Did you believe that last night you will effect change? Stood there in Downing Street? I respect you for having a right of a voice. Of course I do.
Well, I think that's it. The government has, very clearly, we're in a Labour government now, which has a massive election mandate in the House of Commons after the election in 2024, and has done absolutely nothing with it. I think protests are important. We need to be on the right side of history. We need our government to be on the right side of history. But time and again, Labour and Keir Starmer have shown they are not willing to listen to the people. They have a massive mandate and have gone back on so many of their elections.
I don't think whatever side of the political fence you are, that anybody, Samuel, could disagree with what you're saying. We started today with this thing about, lying about energy. Can I ask you something? Not being disrespectful, being straight. Is your project also protested for Palestine?
Of course it has, yes.
But is that forgotten now? Maduro's the one?
Of course it's not forgotten. No, in fact, actually, our Peace and Justice Project is launching its report after we did our Gaza tribunal at the end of last year, which brought together 2 days' worth of evidence of people who were on the ground in Gaza, and which will implicate the UK government in being actively involved.
Do you not think your project should also protest against how anti-Semitism is rife, certainly amongst the Labour Party, when the man that you went and supported last night, Jeremy Corbyn, was in charge? Anti-Semitism. I have many Jewish friends. I think that's appalling as well.
Well, as a British Jew, Jeremy, I do actually think that the fight against anti-Semitism is one that we all must take on.
Yeah.
And I think that certainly the government has a responsibility to do that, as does every civil organisation, and does indeed combat racism in all of its forms.
Can I say something? And this is actually genuinely a true comment, and it's not condescending at all. I've done this a long, long time, and I've always, whenever sort of organisations like yours put somebody up, they're usually about 11, and they've got nothing to say. I'm glad I mean it respectfully. I'm glad you came on. We don't have to agree with all things. We agree on the ineffectiveness of this Prime Minister. I might disagree with what you say, but by God, and I'll tell you what you won't like. I'll tell you this. I also, with the Orange Man baby, there's many things I don't like, but I will give my one remaining testicle. Let's not get into why I've only got one. I will give my one remaining testicle to have a leader in this country who had just a bit of Trumpism in him, who had the ability or the courage or the desire or the verve to say, this is what I bloody well believe in. We don't know where Starmer stands, do we, Samuel, to finish? In anything, really.
Starmer stands on the side of the strongest voice in the room because he does not have one himself. He is a pitiful and pathetic leader.
Who the hell would have thought that you and I would have agreed on that, my friend? Thank you for joining us this morning. Appreciate it. It was at the protests last night. Spokesperson for Peace and Justice. I think I need to go and lie down in a dark room. What the hell's happened to me? 20 to 8, back in 3.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
The excellent Ian Collins there. He's on from 1 o'clock this afternoon after Julia Hartley-Brewer, the Queen of Westminster, on from 10 o'clock this morning. That's how we line up on Talk. What is it? 7:45. Tuesday the 6th. A shout out if you're working outside. Where are you working outside today? It's -10 in places. How are you surviving? Obviously just by working. Nah, sit at home. It's too cold. Be a civil servant. Let me know where you are. 87222. Richard in Leicester. Samuel Sweet. Squeak, I think, should be protesting about how bad the UK is being run by dictator Starmer. Yeah, listen, I was a bit surprised. You've got to give people the right. I don't disagree with some of what he says. I disagree with presumably most of it. But at the end of the day, he has a right. What do you make of that? Steve says, morning, Joe. Surely better than Trump just went in and lifted Maduro rather than declared a full... Is that the jab? Have I got his name wrong? Rather than declared a full-blown war like we did with Saddam Hussein. Actually, looking at Maduro... Maybe he looks like he would have to have Maduro. I've no idea. I wouldn't be. Yeah. Morning, Jez. Oh, here we go. Here we go. Full English. They call British Airways, for God's sake, says Howard in Suffolk. Morning, Jez. They call British Airways... Oh, yeah, we've done that. Is it a surprise that British Airways are ditching the English breakfast and replacing it with an EU snack? No, you see, that's the point. That's what's happening. British Airways are doing it as well. The world's gone barking mad. Samuel Sweek, who was protesting last night in Downing Street, basically saying that our Prime Minister was sitting on the fence and that Donald Trump was following on a US policy that says we can go into any country and change things around. Let's get a US perspective. Ryan Harris, US journalist and broadcaster, 7:45. Good morning, Ryan. How are you?
Good morning, Jeremy. Glad to be with you, but disappointed to hear that BA is scrapping the English breakfast.
Well, listen, nothing works in this country, but I have a concern, sir. You're in California. Tell me, I'm concerned for your safety. You're sitting on your porch. I lived in America. We used to sit on the porch a lot. Are you sitting outside?
I am indeed. It's the only place I can get some peace and quiet to join you.
I understand that with 6 kids, but what about bears, my friend? I don't want to be doing an interview when a bloody great brown bear comes from nowhere and takes out my interviewee. Are you ready and concerned and ready for that?
I am not in the woods, but I do actually have a salt gun handy. If I needed to scare a bear away, I could use it.
Only that would happen to me. On not that we're condoning anything. Just if you see Gavin Newscombe, just keep your... Anyway, there we go. Ryan, good morning. Lovely to have you on. Interesting, the last guest I had was part of a protest last night outside Downing Street because Starmer has been accused of sitting on the fence. I made the point to him that I'll make to you. You can see pictures of bloody hell Jeremy Corbyn there, who seems to make a history of cozying up to dictators. Maduro yesterday in court, he says I'm a prisoner of war. Donald Trump goes into Venezuela, pulls him out. It's all about drugs. No, it's not. It's about oil. In America, what's been the response to Trump's not invasion, but what's happened in Venezuela? Because I read a really interesting stat overnight. His approval rating has gone up 5% since it happened. Is that right?
Well, 5% from pretty low is, not exactly a great improvement. And if you look at the polls, you've got, it's not a majority, but a plurality who oppose the move and another 30% who are unsure about it. So there's really only about a quarter who are actually in favor of it. And it's because even among Trump's MAGA base, they didn't want to get into another war. He, declared himself the president of peace. He's trying to win himself the Nobel Peace Prize. And, as he says, well, we're in charge in Venezuela. Well, if we're in charge, that means American boots on the ground.
Yeah.
And so far, we're not seeing that.
And actually, overnight, there were also, yes, there were thousands saying, great, he's gone, but there was also gunfire and you could see explosions around the presidential palace. I was watching that overnight as I came in to do the show. My concern, I said at the top of the show, is manifold, but mostly what happens, and I think we're getting that vibe from you, what happens to Venezuela when this is done? Is it going to become a situation that has happened before to your country, with respect, where you go in and do something, leave it, and the whole thing goes to... We have a phrase over here I'm not allowed to use, but you know what I'm saying.
I know exactly what you're saying, and I think I know the phrase as well, Jeremy. But what you've seen here is, and you said it, they went in and plucked out Maduro and his wife, and they left the Maduro regime in place with Delcy Rodriguez now having been sworn in. And you'll notice, I believe among the first people to greet her immediately after the swearing in were representatives from China and Russia, and I believe the third was from Cuba. I've been trying to pin that down and haven't been able to find it. I think one of the concerns here is not only that it leaves a mess of a situation here, or that we would end up in another long military engagement, which, I mean, we don't have troops on the ground now, so who knows how it's going to go. But you're right. Now we've caused chaos in this country, in Venezuela. And, Trump says it's about the oil. And in fact, part of the flap here is that he mentioned it, gave a heads up to some of the heads of the major oil companies before it happened, but not to what they call the Gang of Eight, the leadership in Congress that's supposed to be informed about this. So you have members of Congress on both sides of the aisle that are furious that they weren't informed, and, claims that the whole move was illegal, violates international law and our own constitutional procedures. So he's got a heck of a mess there. But the oil companies, some oil insiders are saying that Trump may think it's about oil, but it's still a mess on the ground, and they don't want to spend millions and billions of dollars going in there trying to get the oil. When oil isn't that expensive, it wouldn't be that profitable for them.
Interesting. Very quickly, I haven't got much time, and I'm worried about that bear. He's been making noises about Greenland and Colombia. Is this just the beginning of something from Donald Trump, or do you think this is a one-off?
Well, and I think that's the other big concern, Jeremy. I mean, are we going to see Donald Trump using the U.S. military to march through the Western Hemisphere? God forbid I say it, the way Adolf Hitler marched through Europe. or are we looking at a situation too where this is really more, in my mind, I can't help but wonder if this isn't a test to see if the U.S. military will follow any orders he gives. So we'll have to see how it plays out.
Listen, great to have you on. I'd love you to be on regularly. Ryan Harris on his doorstep there. Avoiding bears, all in the sake of bringing you, ladies and gentlemen, a report live from America, 10 to 8. We're live across the UK. To the break. Morning, Paula.
The King needs to get the Royal Navy, royal, meaning that they work for him, to go into the sea, surround our bloody country, and not let any other small boats in. That's it. That's how you stop it coming over. We stopped them coming over on the lorries because we were able to check and da-da-da-da-da. So why can't we do that with the boats? Just stop them coming over. That's it. End of.
I was sat in the tent and he was showing me through photos of his phone, scrolling through. This was barbaric, horrific stuff. Blokes going through walls in vehicles and then jumping out and shooting everyone. His WhatsApp picture was him with a mask on, with a gun like that.
You're in a tent with this guy?
I'm in a tent with this guy, and actually he's just showing me this stuff. I'm just thinking, this is not the kind of bloke you want to be coming to the UK.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back, 7 minutes to 8 o'clock. Here's a story for you that we found. One of the country's greatest arrays of Victorian cast iron street furniture is being replaced with cheap and banal alternatives, says a campaigner. Canterbury's collection of historic lampposts is steadily being reduced by Kent County Council, which plans to replace the estimated 250 that remain. This is like, you know, cast in the city at a foundry. Well, we're supposed to be proud of things. We're tearing down statues. Now we're getting rid of Victorian architecture. We say a very good morning. Two people on this story. Peter Osborne, he's the councillor and cabinet member for Highways and Transport at the Kent County Council. He's going to be on one side of the screen if you're watching. Guy Mayhew is a campaign coordinator and co-chair of the Canterbury Society. Let's start with Guy Mayhew very quickly. Guy, we haven't got much time. This is disgraceful, isn't it?
Good morning, Jeremy. And yes, absolutely. It's a concern of us as a Canterbury Society, as a civic society that wants to safeguard and protect Canterbury's historic interests. I think it's important to say KCC have the power to maintain street lighting, but the way that's exercised depends on how the planning authority, which is Canterbury City Council, set those rules. So what we're calling for with our campaign is to ask Canterbury City Council to exercise its rights as the planning authority to safeguard these assets for generations to come.
Well, actually, let's talk about that. Assets of years to come. Many were cast as a foundry in the city. The City of Westminster and Edinburgh said only Canterbury, apart from those who retained a full set of bespoke 19th century cast iron street lamp standards. Now, so I fully support this. Now, I think this is going to shock people. Peter Osborne, cabinet member for Highways and Transport at Kent County Council. You're a reform councillor, my friend.
Quite right.
So
it's
what is
disgraceful.
Reform doing, tearing or wanting to be behind, tearing down architecture that's Victorian? It's all about being British, my friend.
Well, it's disgraceful if it was true, which it's not true. This was started in 2018 by the previous administration.
Right.
We're not tearing down anything. I don't know where they've got. I mean, spreading misinformation like this is not helpful to them or to us.
So this is fake news?
Absolutely.
Well, get him back on the screen. Hold on a second. This is great. Honestly, we've got a man with a gun and shooting bears, or attempting not to shoot bears, in America, and now we've got Peter Osborne saying that you, Guy Mayhew, are talking absolute tripe, man. Speak to him.
Well, I very much appreciate confirmation that they aren't going to be removed wholesale, because what we've been advised is that structural testing has been undertaken. That's been disclosed to residents, to concerned residents who have contacted us. And ultimately, the testing regime says that if an asset is cast iron, it automatically is high risk and therefore needs to be replaced with a suitable alternative. And the alternative isn't suitable
Well, let's
for
hold on a
Canterbury's
second.
UNESCO setting.
Pete, you're saying that's absolute rubbish. It's not happening under a Reform Council.
Never in a million years. You know us better than that. So what's actually happened is that some of these... I mean, I read the article, the Times article. I read it last night late. You know, there was things in it about, if you paint them, they'll last for donkey's years. But the bits that are failing are underground. Now, unless I get a team of borrowers in to tunnel underneath with a paintbrush, how can we paint underground? We're going to replace these things, and this has been going on. There's one particular picture that, I don't know if you can see it, but there is one that's been snapped off by a road traffic accident, which was back in 2019, and we replaced it, not me personally, I've only been in post since May of last year, but we replaced it with a modern alternative, which was a temporary fix while Canterbury City Council got their head around it and told us what they wanted. We're still waiting to hear from Canterbury City Council what it is exactly.
So I know I'm not trying to degrade anything, because it's important. This show should not just be about London. These are age-old Victorian cast iron things which need some sort of repair. We both agree. You can categorically say, as a Reform councillor, that Kent County Council isn't about getting rid of them. There has been some replacement in terms of temporary replacement whilst they get repair. But what you're saying is something that's part of British architecture, if you like, infrastructure, is going to remain under a Reform council. Yes or no?
We're not going up there and taking out 250 plus lampposts, obviously not. But as they come, if they fail the structural test, we are going to remove them, but we are going to replace them with an identical copy. But it won't be cast iron, it will be a composite material. Unless you get a microscope to it, you won't be able to tell the difference.
Right, quickly, Guy, what do you make of that?
So I'm pleased to hear that. However, the other concern that's been raised is about the casting or a moulding of the original design, and that's going to cost tens of thousands of pounds apparently. Yep. Well, I can share with you, Peter, that as part of the £20 million levelling up works in Canterbury, the City Council has actually commissioned one of those. So I would suggest that you have a conversation with Canterbury City Council, or force that conversation as soon as possible. And we, as the Canterbury Society, will also be working with Canterbury City Council to get them to work with you on this.
Is that good?
Yeah, it's great. I mean, it's a shame that the Canterbury Society didn't think about talking to us before they put this article out, because we've had no contact from you, according to my staff.
You know, the cynics used to say that all I could do, right, was sort out people's love lives with a DNA test. Well, there you go. I can sort out Victorian bloody cast iron street furniture between a Reform council and the Canterbury Society. Fantastic, gentlemen. You go out for some coffee and make sweet. Almost 8 o'clock. You see, multi-talented. Forget the old you're a liar. Listen, they've sorted out their garden. No, they're not. They're Victorian cast iron street furniture. Almost 8 o'clock. We're live across the UK. It's the Jeremy Kyle Breakfast Show on Talk. It's the home of alarm clock Brits. You're waking up to the news that Starmer's been outed by X as a liar. Shocking news. I bet many of you are thinking, how the hell did that happen? We're talking houses, we're talking pubs, and we're talking Crowborough in East Sussex. CCTV's going up because presumably they fear what might happen, not that they'll admit it. News at 8 and more of your calls, and we'll kick off the next hour with... I've no idea.
This journey of me following the migrants went from sort of 10 in the morning all around the clock to late at night. to the point where, you know, on buses, on trains, through streets, at every key point, French military police and the French police, they were there. They were on the bus, taking down notes, taking pictures, but not doing anything to deter the migrants or stop them, just being there. I was sat in the tent and he was showing me through photos of his phone, scrolling through. This was barbaric, horrific stuff. Blokes going through walls in vehicles and then jumping out and shooting everyone. You know, his WhatsApp picture was him with a mask on, with a gun like that.
You're in a tent with this guy?
I'm in a tent with this guy, and actually he's just showing me this stuff. I'm just thinking, this is not the kind of bloke you want to be coming to the UK.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
A very good morning, just gone 8 o'clock. We're still recovering from the last bit where we took a reform councillor and somebody from the Canterbury Society who were arguing over some Victorian cast iron lampposts, and they've been arguing for a long time. We got them on, and in 7 minutes we cleared it up. Mark, who's an integral part of the breakfast show, said, let's just hope they don't lamp each other during their discussions. Fantastic. And I wonder whether both will still be in their post, said Christian. It's getting worse. Now, just gone 8 o'clock. It is freezing, freezing cold. -12 in certain areas in the south. If you're out and about working today, working Brits, doing your bit, paying your tax, just so those people can take advantage. Where are you? What you doing? Am I making it back to the coast? It's -12 today. Very, very frightening. We've got some breaking news as well. You know this, the Venezuela's thing yesterday, Maduro. I'm a prisoner of war, he said. He was in court. Many people criticising Donald Trump this morning. His deputy chief of staff, this is breaking news, Stephen Miller, has just said that Greenland should be a part of the United States. Good God. Stephen Miller, Deputy Chief of Staff to Donald J. Trump, the 47th President of the United States, has just said that Greenland should indeed be part of the United States. There's so much in the news today we can get our teeth into. The weather, obviously. Starmer, don't know if you heard this one overnight. I didn't want to make it about him, but there we go. He tweeted last night on this X thing. This is what he said. This year you will start to feel our promise of change. £150 off the average energy bill from April. Your public services will be improved. Your community will see more funding. I am restoring local pride. We're getting Britain back on track. That was given out last night on X. Very quickly, X, under Musk, there's a thing called a community note, which basically means you're lying. They said it is important to note that when Labour first promised a £300 reduction in energy bills in June 24, the price cap stood at £1,570. Today it stands at £1,758. A £150 reduction means the bills will still be higher than when Labour was elected. So even X is calling Keir Starmer a liar. And there's also this story that's been doing the rounds about Crowborough in East Sussex. You might have seen this. It's a story we're waking up to. Basically, this is the village where they got rid of the local cadet training camp. 600 cadets were ousted. In come the migrants. Ahead of that, despite the fact that the council and everybody else says it's fine, except for the locals, CCTV, thousands, tens of thousands of pounds worth of CCTV cameras put all over the village, which for anybody with a brain cell would say, oh yeah, that means it's a dangerous situation. That's what we think. And of course, the big news story of the day. I make no apology for making it that. British Airways cancelling the full English from tomorrow on business class flights because, not as a cost-cutting measure, not at all as a cost-cutting measure. Basically because they expect their crews to spend more time talking to you. So you're hungry, but some inane person's going, are you enjoying your flight? This has caused more interest than any other story. British Airways Full English has been replaced with the Meghan Markle Rainbow Flute Platter? You try saying that, fruit platter, I don't think so. Oh God, Crowborough, CCTV. I'm not going to say what the person says. The police can't stop burglars on your bloody Ring doorbell. They won't investigate. What's the point, says Tash in Bexhill. Morning, says Kath. Great show. I think you are wrong about the Crowborough cameras, Jez. They are going in to protect the migrants and their premises and to keep an eye on the protesters. And also Rob Lane, I love this. Can the full English, are we going to change it to what, a full Palestinian? And then British Airways can recognise it as the state. And he said every breakfast I've had is a complete state anyway. We say a very good morning to Ryan Saby, Deputy Political Editor of The Sun. How are you? Looking slightly darkened there, Ryan. How are you, sir?
I'm trying to turn the lights on. Yeah, no,
nice to... You what?
I need to move these lights around in my house, actually, yeah.
Don't you worry, my friend. Welcome to the brand new Jeremy Kyle Breakfast Show. Can we just get a quick response straight away on that news that Trump's Deputy Chief of Staff, Stephen Miller, has just declared that Greenland should indeed be part of the United States?
Well, I think this is obviously a big move from the United States, and it puts Sir Keir Starmer in a very difficult position, actually. If I turn it back domestically, if he's talking about that and this big land grab, of Greenland, where does it leave Great Britain? Where does it leave the United Kingdom? Keir Starmer is effectively trying to ride two horses at the moment, and we've seen how difficult that is for him over the last 2 or 3 days. He's trying to keep America happy, our closest ally, and on the other hand, he's trying to, move closer to the European Union and stay closer to Brussels. And European leaders meet in Paris today. And one thing that he's trying to do is to try and get these guarantees from the United States to protect Ukraine, to make sure that Russia and Vladimir Putin don't, cause any more unrest in Ukraine or have a chance to go again if there is some kind of peace settlement. So I think it's very tricky. It's not great news for anyone that if the United States go for Greenland, the knock-on effects for what happened with Denmark, what does this mean for Europe? What does this mean for NATO? Does it mean the end for NATO? So I think it raises so many questions. And I think that these talks, as I say, in Paris today were meant to be about Ukraine and the coalition of the willing. It just feels like in the background of those conversations, in the corridors, etc., will be about something else entirely.
I mean, I think that's the point, and I find myself in sort of uncharted waters. And I've said categorically on this show before that much of what Donald Trump does I don't agree with, but there is something that makes me always think, good Lord, at least he's got a pair big enough to do what he says he's going to do. And I had an American correspondent just on who said that there's concern in America. You're right. The problem is, if we bring it domestically, we've got a Prime Minister who doesn't have the balls, let's just be totally honest, to stand up and say, I agree or I disagree. We seem to be hiding behind this special relationship. I mean, we had the royal visit earlier in the year. Everybody cozied up, and that's fine. You either agree with him about Maduro or whatever his name is, or you see the bigger picture. I see the bigger picture. I think it's not anything other than oil and the fact that China and Russia might get sanction-free oil. I think that the Greenland thing, I keep hearing him say there's a build-up of Russian and Chinese interests. I think the world is looking in that direction. Something you just said that is worth bearing and thinking about is that, the coalition of the willing that came together to sort out the problem, Russia and Ukraine, that sort of disappeared onto the back burner. Keir Starmer is, and some people, not many, will have sympathy and say you're in a difficult position. I blame this entirely on his own inability to ever stick his neck above the parapet and have a bloody opinion on anything, because this man kowtows left, right and centre. He did it in the election, he's done it since, and he ends up having to look left, right and all over the place because he never nails his colours to one mast, does he? He's all things to all people, and my criticism of Starmer would be, in the end, you end up being nothing to anybody. That's how I see it. I've always seen it like that. Oh, is he gone?
Yeah, I think you're right. And I'll just take one example of what's happened in the last 3 or 4 days or so. Keir Starmer talking about closer ties to the European Union, closer ties with the single market. Now, you may agree with that or you may disagree with it. But if you're going to say something, say it wholeheartedly. So at least we can have a debate about it, and don't try and sort of, go through this middle ground of trying to appease, reform voters on one hand, excuse me, go for the European Union sort of closer ties on the other hand, and try and work this middle ground. If you believe in something, whether you believe in, withholding international law, which, if you'd asked him this question about Venezuela 10 years ago and it happened, I think he might have got a different answer. Stick true to your beliefs. And I think that is one of the problems that we've got with this Prime Minister. We don't know what the big picture is. And I think that's one of the big problems. I'd take you back to the election campaign. They talked about this Ming Vase strategy, how they didn't want to, drop the Ming Vase, as it were, during this campaign. Didn't really want to offend anyone. Well, no one knew what he stood for. And I think I think one of the things you go through election campaigns, you formulate big ideas in your mind. You should know where you're heading and know where the country is heading. Because he didn't know where the country was heading particularly, we've been sort of left, picking up the problems now.
Do you know, Ray, I've always thought since the election, and I've said it many times on this station, I don't think he won the election. I think the Tories lost it. I just, a lot of people will say to me, oh, you're being really unfair. There's a story overnight about the tweet. Have you seen this story about Keir Starmer? I mean, to me, it sums up entirely what's wrong with the man. He tweets out that, we're going to change the world, that your country, everything's going to get better, and 150 quid average off your energy bills from April, which is a blatant lie and was outed by X in a community note. And I don't know whether the guy's comms are bad. I don't know whether... I've said this for as long as I've sat here. I just don't think he's got the DNA. I don't think he's got the feeling in his guts. The best politicians that we've had in this country are of the ability to say, the people aren't going to agree with me all the time. I've been elected, some will love it, some will hate it, but I've got a plan and I'm going to stick to that plan. And my detractors can do their bit, but I'm going to be consistent. I think the biggest problem, internationally, domestically, nobody knows what this man genuinely stands for. I don't know what he stands for. How stupid to lie about people's energy bills. It's caused real consternation this morning from people who cannot afford. It's -12 for some out there. They can't afford to heat their homes. And you look at it and you go, are you stupid, or are you cynically believing because it's cold this is a good time to rake up a story that's going to bite you on the backside again?
Yeah, I think once you look at the fine detail of the energy bills, now the budget, Rachel Reeves said we're going to bring energy bills down by £150, but I think once you add in all the other bits, as that community note says, actually the bills are going to go up. And I think, as you say, we didn't know what he stood for. He claimed to think that he had a big plan for when he came into government, but if you go back to Thatcher, to Blair, you kind of knew what they stood for. You knew what their beliefs were.
Love it or loathe it, you knew what they stood for. Absolutely. That's my point, isn't it? It's a bit like America with Trump. Whatever we make on this side of the pond of what he's doing, in America, that country is split between he can do no wrong and he's the devil incarnate, right? That doesn't happen in this country. Most people would say about Keir Starmer, oh, I just don't believe a word, or I don't really like him, or there's nothing about him that inspires me. I don't even feel angry with Keir Starmer. Do you know the most shocking thing I said to Christian yesterday was, I'm starting to not feel sorry for him. I'm just starting to think, well, it's a bit like Ruben Amorim at Manchester United. It's going to happen, isn't it? You're going to lose your job because you're incompetent. That's it.
Yeah, I think the interesting thing is that actually Keir Starmer's premiership now, it may be ongoing, but in fact, it seems like he lost it, and he sort of lost his way, and the government lost their way in that first 6 months. This was a government who went in with 160, 170 seat majority, and look how quickly they lost sort of the momentum and the goodwill. And I think sometimes with governments, you go back to Boris Johnson, maybe, so those governments have the benefit of the doubt of the public. The public give them the benefit of the doubt because they know they're trying to do the right thing. But look how many unforced errors that this government has had. Winter fuel, national insurance, the farmers' tax, all these U-turns. So even when they do have a big principal policy on the farmers' tax, for example, 2 days before Christmas, they're rowing back on it. There were some words yesterday from Keir Starmer on pubs. We've spoken about it a lot. Well, it seems like there is a hint that there may be some more help for pubs, and so there should be, because they're really struggling. But why put everyone through the political pain when there is no political gain from any of these decisions.
Couldn't agree more. There's a great story in your newspaper, The Sun. Where's my Sun logo? It's disappeared. There's a great story, by the way, in The Sun today, which I just want to tell you. I'd love your take on this, because this has also caused real consternation this morning. Crowborough, East Sussex, we know the area, the cadet thing. Let's get rid of the army. Let's bring in the illegal migrants. Oh, they'll be fine. Don't worry about it, people. Don't protest. It'll be absolutely fine. Thousands and thousands and thousands of pounds to be spent upgrading CCTV the length and breadth of this town, which absolutely tells anybody with a brain cell that the authorities expect trouble. People are up in arms about this, pal. Great Sun story today.
Yeah, no, a great story from my colleague Emily Jane. Now, I think that on the CCTV camera, it just tells you every single thing you know is the expectancy of the people who live in this area. There's been, several sort of protests and, MPs talking about this. But actually, by putting up all these CCTV cameras, it just shows you, and it's almost like the public will be fearful of what's about to happen. And I don't think that's a particularly great state of mind to be knowing that actually things are about to or could get a lot worse. So I think that the politicians and local community leaders have really got to rally round and make sure that that Crowborough is safe and is made to be.
But what chance, Roy, have they got when our own government took Epping Forest Local Council to court, who'd successfully got a court to say, no, we're not having that migrant hotel because 2 girls next door in a school were attacked sexually. People have been detained, prosecuted, charged and imprisoned for that. We've got locals saying this is dangerous. The council, I thought, brilliantly got that hotel closed down. And our own government went to court and said, no, the rights of migrants are more important than the local people. The same's happening in Crowborough. I've got people this morning saying, God, it's a surveillance state. He's bringing in ID cards. I reckon he's keeping an eye on us. I just... is another example. Starmer can't get it right. He can't get anything right. I'm sorry to say that. It probably doesn't sound like I'll ever have a relationship with Keir Starmer. Poor me. I just don't understand. And this Crowborough story in The Sun is another example. Admit that migrant men are not escaping war-torn countries. They're not bringing their wives and children. They're coming to a soft as country that wipes their backsides, and they're coming into our communities. They come from cultures that don't respect women, and problems happen. Why don't you, Starmer, have the balls to stand up and say that? I know why, because you're terrified that you'll lose the vote in certain areas. That's not how you govern, man. That's how I see it.
Yeah, and I think you're right. And also I think that we've got the big problem on the migrant hotels, and the government say they're going to close these migrant hotels, but you're still pretty much going to be left with thousands, maybe tens of thousands of migrants being put into communities. There's talk of homes of multiple occupancy. So you may well know that migrants are going to be in hotels, but in 3 months, 6 months, or a year's time, when we have more of these homes of multiple occupancy, you can have people right in the throes of a community. And I think the situation actually on a local level could actually get a hell of a lot worse. So I think that's one other thing ministers need to be acutely aware of.
Listen, it's great to have you on. We love having you on. Ryan does such a great job, not with his lighting. I'm only messing, mate. 8:20, Tuesday morning, the Jeremy Kyle Breakfast Show is live and exclusive. It's the home of the Alarm Clock Brits, the working person, wherever you are this morning. Down south, -12, Christian. I'm glad you put your new Christmas jumper on. If you've not heard the breaking news, Trump's Deputy Chief of Staff, Stephen Miller, has just said that Greenland should indeed be part of the US. I maintain the way I'd like Trump to send his special forces into the United Kingdom in the dark of night and take Starmer out. I don't mean out so that people get offended, just take him out of the country. Guantanamo Bay in an orange suit would be lovely. Before the news, I proved that the Jeremy Kyle Show wasn't in the past just about relationships. That was gone. I managed to sort out an argument between a councillor and somebody from the Canterbury Society about Victorian lampposts. Morning, Steve.
Morning, Jezza. Just a quick one. I've been through Sheffield, and Sheffield actually cast the original castings for all these lampposts that they're talking about. They're actually on display in the city centre. I don't understand why they have to pay for these sort of castings. They're ancient. Nobody uses them anymore. Apparently now we need to use them again. Just go back to the Forge Masters in Sheffield and get them to either commission them or get a copy of them all. Thanks, mate.
across the UK. On DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Oh, my Lord. Welcome along, 8:23. What is it? Is it Tuesday? It's been a manic morning. Welcome to Talk Breakfast. Just to let you know, Robert Jenrick, of course, Shadow Justice Secretary, prominent voice of the Tory party, live and exclusive on our regular two-weekly feature that was, was genius. It's called Ring Rob. It's because he's called Robert Jenrick. But on a serious note, top man. Really interesting. Your questions to Robert Jenrick right now. You can text 87222, start your message with the word talk. You can email, phone it, you make a call, 0344 499 1000. We want you to send your questions to Robert Jenrick from 9 o'clock this morning, exclusive to the Jeremy Kyle Breakfast Show. Good morning, Mark.
Good morning, Jeremy. This is Mark from Essex. Just saw the interview with a young chap, the protester. I just wondered, I would love to have asked him whether he'd been out protesting against the other young protesters in Iran that have been shot and killed by the regime out there, and whether he could protest against the treatment of the Uyghurs and the Rohingya people, the colonisation of parts of Africa by China, and the war crimes that Putin commits against the people of Ukraine. How these people have so much time in their lives to worry about people from other countries is beyond me, but good on him for doing it. But I'd love to ask him those questions. Cheers, mate. Have a good day.
He sounds cold, doesn't he? Which keeps bringing me back to how nippy it is out there. -12 in parts of the south. If you're working out there this morning, it's got to sound like if you're working out there this morning, let me know where you are and how cold and chilly it is. He sounds like he didn't breathe. 0344 499 1000 for those voice notes. Morning, Jez. I'm not doing that. Joanna from Salisbury. Hi, Jez. Reduced heating bills of £150. That's £2.87 a week reduction. Really? I had, she said, a 90% reduction. I turned the boiler off because I can't afford it. That's how cold I am. But I'm still bloody well paying £164 a year for standing charges for the privilege. Phil's in Coventry. Morning, JK. Another day, and yet again, this government looks more like a bunch of fibbing anti-British traitors. I seriously think they hate us. Social houses for migrants before us. It makes my bloody blood boil. We say at 8:25 to our next guest, a very good morning, Shadow Secretary of State for Defence, proving that politics is about hard men and women. No coat, -12. James Cartledge MP, good morning, sir. How are you?
Well, I'm hoping to have a warm reception from your interview.
That was either very good or particularly sickly. But James, welcome to the show. Thank you so much indeed for joining us from Westminster this morning. I don't know really where to start. Well, I do, actually, as you are, of course, Shadow Secretary of State for Defence. Trump's Deputy Chief of Staff, Stephen Miller, has just declared in the last half an hour that Greenland should be indeed part of the US. Now, we've heard a lot of criticism about Starmer's fence-sitting over Venezuela and Maduro. We've seen the figures. We've also seen, the people in Venezuela. Some are very happy, others are very anti it. We saw a protest last night in London outside Downing Street. What is the Tories' view? We always hear about the special relationship. Is this a step too far by Donald Trump? And how would, if Kemi Badenoch had been the Prime Minister, do you think she would have responded differently to Keir Starmer?
Actually, I think we take the same position as the government on this. We're very, very clear, and Kemi said this yesterday in the House of Commons, responding to the statement by the Foreign Secretary on Venezuela, which is that we recognise, as the government does, that Greenland is part of the Kingdom of Denmark, part of a sovereign country, a close ally of the United Kingdom and a fellow NATO member, and that is absolutely our position, and I know that if she was Prime Minister, that's what she would say.
What about Venezuela, though? A lot of criticism aimed Starmer's way. Fence-sitting, he's got the left of the party who seemingly, and again, maybe you can explain this to me, you live and work amongst them. Yeah. Why do so many left-wing socialists cuddle up to dictators and despots who ruin people's lives? I've never understood that.
Well, I mean, when you say I live and work amongst them, certainly share my place of work with them, not necessarily their views, you won't be surprised to hear, because you're absolutely right. I was in that statement yesterday. I watched the Labour backbench questions, and what was extraordinary is, of course, you may have moderate people who question, what Trump has done, etc. But there are people there who are hostile to it, who were never critical of President Maduro. And it's extraordinary to see that. After all, this is someone, let's not forget, who has been accused of crimes against humanity by the International Criminal Court. You know, going back to the sentiment expressed a couple of callers ago about China and so on, Venezuela had very close links with China, with Russia, and even with Iran, who were supporting Hezbollah from their proceeds from Venezuela. So, you know, not a friendly regime from a UK point of view. And so, you know, we were clear in recognising that there is a benefit to our national interest and to the world of being rid of Maduro, as it were, on trial now in the United States. But I just want to be clear going forward, nevertheless, a bit cautious, because of course what we now need to see is a stable transition to a fully functioning democracy.
And James, I'm with you, and that's how I started this show at 6 o'clock this morning. Definitely crimes against humanity, definitely a state that has suffered at the hands of a despot and a dictator. The argument is, I mean, the legitimacy of what Trump did, international law, we can sit and spend all day poking into that. America has always had that sort of position, I guess, in the world. For me, it's not about the drug trafficking. It's most definitely about oil and the threat of Russia and China. But for me, massively, it's about what happens afterwards, because we've seen it in other countries. The Americans go in and do this thing, and we've seen overnight gunfire already. We've seen problems around the presidential palace. We don't want another situation in the world where, in trying to oust somebody, very effectively, I have to say, who is not good at all for humanity, you look good there and then you leave a mess behind. That's dangerous, right?
I basically agree with all of your points. I mean, first of all, you're right. Militarily, in pure military terms, a highly impressive, expertly executed operation. And like you know, no regrets at all that Maduro has gone, for all the reasons you said, but nevertheless, this doubt, this caveat, which Kemi expressed yesterday as well, we've seen in the past when strong leaders are removed from countries, there can be instability, and sometimes it can be chronic. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. Hopefully, the US have got a plan for that. I think it's in their interest as much as anyone else's to have a stable transition, because I think the key principle is if we are going from a dictator to a new democracy, really the future of that country must ultimately be determined by the people of Venezuela, and let's wish them well. They have not had an easy time of it. Hopefully through what's happened they will ultimately have a more prosperous and democratic future.
If you were the Defence Secretary and Kemi Badenoch was the Prime Minister, you're dealing with Donald Trump, who some would say is an enigma, some people would say is mad. There's a lot I don't agree with him, but there's something that I say every day on this show, which is I wish we had a Prime Minister right now in this country that had half the cojones that he has to do what he says he's going to do, instead of spending his time doing stuff he never said he was going to do. But when you hear his Deputy Chief of Staff, Stephen Miller, saying, Greenland should be part of the US next, as a politician, do you sit there and think, this is just Trump? We suckered up to him and gave him a state visit and he'll be fine, and then he goes off, because that sort of underestimates a man who, let's be honest, there's always a reason behind what he says and what he does. How do you deal with somebody like that? How do you maintain that special relationship, do you think?
Well, it's a very fair question. I mean, first of all, my emphasis would be on what is said by the key figures in the administration. So, Marco Rubio is the US Secretary of State, the equivalent of our Foreign Secretary. If you look, he's repeatedly said in recent months how critical NATO is to the United States. Yeah. Denmark's a NATO member. I think it's inconceivable, the sort of scenario that is being postulated. And, with respect to Mr. Miller, he is not a senior member of the administration. Having said that, we're very clear, like the government, on this particular point, that Greenland's part of Denmark, which is a sovereign country and a close ally of ourselves. But I think in terms of the special relationship, your wider point on the US, how would you handle President Trump if I was the Defence Secretary, etc.? I mean, when I was in the MOD and I was the Procurement Minister, very close working relationship with the US in everything. I think people probably underestimate the extent to which we are intertwined for our benefit and for the wider benefit of our allies, and we bring a lot to that. It's not just one-way traffic. There are close dependencies. If you recall, I think Denmark actually had the highest per head losses in Afghanistan, supporting what was the operation that followed ultimately 9/11. We are all allies, and that's by sticking together that makes us stronger. So let's not get overexcited about what some people are saying. But ultimately, what I would say say is the world is changing, it's evolving rapidly, and we need to move with it. And the most important point I want to finish on is the message I get from this. You're talking about wanting to see a strong leader here, strong leadership. The biggest weakness we've had, in my view, from the Prime Minister is the way he's given into his backbenchers with a massive majority and prioritised welfare when we need to increase defence spending so that we stand strong in the world as well.
You might find this shocking, and this is not against you personally, but I think that too many governments, including Tory governments, for the last 25 years have seen the easy option, under the belief that the Cold War was done and everything was fine, is to cut defence. I think it is an absolute outrage that we have less in our armed forces than illegal migrants have come into this country since Keir Starmer became Prime Minister. I think it's a joke. I think Great Britain is about being an island, about protecting its borders. We have this problem with migrants. I think defence has always and should always be far higher up the political agenda, and I'm guessing that if the Tories do get back, it won't be. I mean, I remember in the last election, James, final question, obviously, you know, it was a couple of days before polling. Rishi Sunak went 2.5% of GDP. Too late, mate. Too late, too late, too late. I've always thought defence is massively important. What?
Factually, that's not correct. Factually, that is not correct.
Okay.
I was integral to that plan for 2.5%. We came out with it in April. The election was a few months later. I appreciate it was relatively near to it. When I was doing that work, we didn't know there was about to be a general election.
But I'm not blaming you, but started with Theresa May. It
Yeah.
should not have been cut as dramatically, James, as it had done over the years.
I think the key thing, and I agree with you, is yes, it needs to be a bigger priority. Of course, I would say that, but I feel that passionately.
Yeah.
But if you look back in terms of historic defence spending, it was the last time it was 5% was under Mrs. T in 1985. Gorbachev becomes president, and suddenly, you know, peace, perestroika, the fall of the Berlin Wall, and we all thought we were living in times of peace. And around the world, defence spending fell. It went to 4%. It was 3% under us in 1996, then 2.5%, and so on and so on. We've got to learn from that. And that's, you know, OK, fine, we can't undo that. What do we do to make up for it? Let's have a proper plan to increase defence spending. I discussed R1 when I was on your show before Christmas, and I think the most important point is what you prioritise. To prioritise bigger welfare payments when we have the problems we do with our jobs market, when we need to get more people into work, and instead of spending that on defence and making our country strong, is for me absolutely extraordinary, and is for me the biggest criticism I have of the current government.
You see, we had a lovely interview. I've got one final question, if that's all right. You'll love this. British Airways is axing the full English. It's not cost-cutting. It's apparently to allow their staff to have more conversations. I personally don't want to hear from some inane steward or stewardess. I want a full English. Are you a fan of the full English?
You mean a full English breakfast?
Yeah.
Yeah, I love a full English breakfast. I mean, as I stand here in this relatively chilly environment, the thought of a full English breakfast warms the cockles, if I may say.
Well, James, I've only got one piece of advice for you. Don't ever fly British Airways again. James Cartledge, you're a top man. Shadow Defence Secretary, Tory front bench, James Cartledge MP on Jeremy Kyle Breakfast Show. He's hard. No wonder he's in charge of defence. No coat for him. It's freezing out there, 25 to 9. Listen, Robert Jenrick is here after 9 o'clock. I've told you already. Get your texts, get your calls in. 87222. Start your message with the word talker. You can call us 0344 499 1000. Did we do, Mark? Have we done that? Why are you... Oh, they're shaking their heads. There's two people who are like the life and soul of this show. One is Christian in his new jumper. The other is Mark, who comes out with inane comments. I just asked a question, and in sync they both went, no, not yet. Hello, Mark. Ah! Come on, Marky.
Morning, Jeremy. This is Mark from Essex. Just saw the interview with a young chap, the protester. I would love to ask...
Sorry, could I just tell you something, both of you? OK, we have played this. Drop that. Both of you got that wrong. And I'm afraid that's a black mark. Now, I'm going to ask you to go to an ad break. Can we try and push the right... Here we go. Push it now. Yeah.
across the UK. On DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
I've had to get amongst them in the break. They're, honestly, talk about inefficient. They're both really cute. No, I'm joking. Get the biscuits out. 0344. Oh, look, that's great. My wife, right? Honestly, this has just come up. And this is justice for me sitting in a warm studio saying how cold it is. She went, morning, the joys, we have a cracked windscreen. Oh, God, that's the cold, isn't it? Don't put hot water on your windscreen. Not, I'm saying they should. Got in this car this morning and it was there. Think it's a repair maybe, though, as it's inside. That's from Mrs. Kyle. Bless her heart. There we go. Don't worry, I'll come home and throw that. I mean, I'll get it. Sean will do it. 0344 419 1000. Text to 87222. Before we move on, great competition on at Talk at the moment. Great chance to work on the new year by giving away. Listen, we're giving away £26,000 tax-free. That's about 35 grand. What better way to kick off 2026 with your chance to win serious cash? It's the biggest one ever. New Year cash away. I think it's 26 grand because it's 2026. Do you know what I mean? Here's how you can enter, right? Chance to win. This is so simple. Text Talk. What is this? 83338. 83338. That's all you got to do. Text costs £2.50 plus your standard network rate, or you can call us they're not going to know this, but 0343 423 9761. Closing, by the way, 9th of January, midday. You need to be 18 plus or ask the person who pays the bill, which will be your parents. This is a network promotion, of course. Full T's and C's at talksport.com/win. All you got to do, forget the number. Text 83338. It'll cost you £2.50 and you could win £26,000 tax-free. Imagine, Mrs K, how many new windscreens I could buy for that. It's going to cost me a few quid when I get home. 20 to 9. Don't forget, Robert Jenrick here with Call Rob. Oh, no. Joking. Ring Rob. See what he did? It's after 9 o'clock this morning. Are we ready with Layla? No, we're going to a phone call. Layla Cunningham from Reform in just a tick. We'll go to London first. Paula, good morning. Welcome to the Jeremy Kyle Breakfast Show. How are you?
I'm good. How are you, Jeremy?
Not bad for a balding 60-year-old has-been. You know how it is.
Oh, bless you.
Thanks.
Oh.
It's condescending, isn't it?
Sorry. Okay. So I follow a lady called Kaplanik, and she's from Greenland. She's Greenlandic.
She's Greenlandic? Is that a thing?
Yeah.
She's Greenlandic?
Yeah,
what are you? I'm Englishlandic. She's Greenlandic.
You can call them Greenlander, but you can say they're Greenlandics.
Right.
So you've got Icelandics and you've got Icelanders. Okay?
Okay.
Right, we're good on that one. Okay? So I follow her, and she has said that while she doesn't totally agree with Trump in regards to, coming over to Greenland and taking whatever, she has said it has raised the issue of the Greenlandic peoples, the Inuit peoples, to have the right to self-determination. In other words, not from the Danish, not from the Americans, but doing business with both. That they can self-determine which way they want to go for the future and the future of the young generation. So whilst we're all hitting Trump on the head, what he has done, much to the dismay of the Danish, he has raised the issue of Greenland's right to self-determination and independence.
Give me a bit of history, because I've never pretended on this show that I know stuff I don't know. Greenland, is it a part of Denmark? Was it taken over by Denmark? Has it always been part of Denmark? What's the truth about it?
It's an autonomous territory, okay, and it's self-ruled government and the parliament. However, interestingly, when in reference to the parliament, the main language is Danish. But she has said everyone in her household, she's got young kids, they talk in the native language. When she asked her kids what language would they favour to learn as a second language after Greenlandic, it would be English, because they know it serves them for the future to work overseas. At the moment, they learn Danish, and then down the road they learn English. She has also said they are close to their relatives in the sense of the Inuits in Canada and the Native Americans, in the USA. So they've only just started establishing daily flights from Nuuk to, I think, Iqaluit.
Have you been to Greenland?
Me?
Yeah.
No, I'd love to go. It's on my list.
It does look quite depressing, doesn't it?
No, it's beautiful.
Listen, I went to Lapland when I was doing the old TV show with some ill children at Christmas, and it was lovely for them. But what a depressing place. 3 hours a day it was like. That was it.
Okay. But do you see what I'm saying? Trump has put a spanner in the works, much to the annoyance of the Danes. The Danes are speaking loudly, but we're not hearing anything from the...
Be very interesting. We just had his Deputy Chief of Staff, Stephen Miller, Trump, declaring that Greenland should be part of the US. I just tend to think that's bluff and rhetoric, but I could be wrong. I don't know how... we had this discussion about Canada, didn't we? If we carry on at this... my only abiding belief would be that I could just, please God, wish that the US Secret Service could get into Downing Street in the middle of the night in the dark and take Keir Starmer out so that we don't have to put up with him anymore.
Oh, that is our dream, isn't it? That is our dream.
Can I just ask you, after your history lesson this morning, about the Greenlandic situation, where do you stand on the full English? Because British Airways are axing it in business class from tomorrow. I think it's political correctness. I think we're going to end up with the divisive déjeuner. I don't know.
Let me tell you, Jeremy, the full English will always live, and you know why?
Why?
Because in Belarus you can get it full on. The full English breakfast in Minsk, and if it can reach that far corners of the world, it will never not be British. It will always be British.
This show is like water going around a colander. Thank you for your call. We're all honestly, there's so much in the news today. That was Greenland. We've also got the story about Crowborough and East Sussex. CCTV cameras. Don't you two laugh. You messed up first. Morning, Brian.
Good morning, Jezza. It's about the people of Crowborough. Now, I've looked it up, and they are a Conservative safe seat, and their second favourites are the Liberal Democrats. So I find it's a bit ridiculous for the people of Crowborough to be moaning about immigration turning up when they've been voting for it as long as, for the last 20 years. Now, what really pees me off is the people of Crowborough, they didn't do nothing when people were, in the tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands and millions were arriving in places like my constituency, which is a Labour constituency. They kept stum because they thought it wouldn't happen to them. Then it turns up on their doorstep and now they start moaning. People should have more responsibility when they vote. Cheers, mate.
It's very interesting, that whole Crowborough situation. I think we've got a Crowborough resident currently in... what's he doing in Tenerife? Does he hate Crowborough that much that he's in Tenerife? What's going on? Liam Tufts, good morning.
Good morning, Jeremy. Thanks for giving away my location. I'm out here covertly.
Oh, right, well done. Well, they didn't tell me that. Well, actually, he's in Portugal, I was lying. Very, very briefly, my friend, thank you for joining us. Crowborough resident, much written and said this morning about this, primarily because there's a story in The Sun that says that thousands of pounds will be spent upgrading 16 grand's worth of CCTV cameras in Crowborough, East Sussex, which, of course, as we know, is set to house hundreds of illegal migrants after the cadets were thrown out. Quick thoughts on this for me, Liam?
It's a sickening thought. It's despicable. I just want to clear up. I'm not a resident. I'm a community member and supporter. I don't live a million miles from Crowborough, and I've paid close attention. When I read the initial BBC report saying that there was going to be 600 plus migrants housed in the army barracks, and the BBC said that there was mixed reviews, there was mixed emotions on the subject, and I just instantly smelt BS and thought there's no way there's going to be a split decision on that. It's a population of 22,000 people in Crowborough. I know the area quite well, so I decided to go there myself and speak to the residents personally. And if you check my Instagram, you'll see that I've done that in some depth. And it's not even the general consensus. It's point blank. 5,000 people are turning up on the streets protesting against it. They don't want it. We know that builders are being ferried in and out. Cleaners are being ferried in and out. There's going to be a massive upgrade of the barracks, so it's nice and cosy for them. It's a disgrace. It's dangerous. They haven't got the infrastructure. Crowborough it's not built for an extra 600 foreign men. with a completely different belief system to theirs and ours, Jeremy.
And listen, the reason I wanted to put you on briefly is it's very easy, isn't it, for people to jump up and down as they do on the left and say, oh, this is outrageous. Let's remind everybody about Epping Forest and the Bell Hotel and how that local council, I thought brilliantly, said we don't want migrants in that hotel. We're not racist or far right, but the truth is that 2 girls from a school have been sexually attacked. These people have been charged and imprisoned and found guilty, blah, blah, blah. And the government took the council to court and got it reversed so the hotel stays open, which sends a message, a bit like Crowborough. We care more about human rights of people who shouldn't be in this country without saying the wrong thing than we do about our own indigenous population. That's when you have a real issue, because it's really easy for people to say, there's all these far-right thugs out on the streets. No. These are mothers of teenage daughters in bloody Epping, and I know in Crowborough it's the same. And if you're saying to me that actually it's not safe for 600 cadets, but it's all right for us to have 600 unvetted men, I think you're talking about complete trouble. And of course, whenever we bring it up, Liam, right, people will go, oh, what are you saying? I'm not saying anything. What I'm saying is the silent majority have had enough of the BS that you quite rightly said being given to them, and something has to give, whether it's this government, whether it's a philosophy and ideology. Just finally for you, just for me, in terms of Crowborough, these are peaceful residents just looking out for their town, right?
Mothers, fathers, cousins, friends, family members, they're either builders, they've got corporate jobs. A lot of them are working in the education system. And some of the people that are working within the education system have been warned by their peers, if you're seen at these events, you'll be pulled in for a disciplinary. So the protests are trying to be suppressed, which is really worrying, because they're a very friendly. It's as good as a village. It's not too far from Tunbridge Wells. You probably know the area.
Yeah, I do.
It's relatively affluent, well-to-do. Just ordinary people, sick to the back teeth. Something was always going to give, and I think it's only going to get worse from here. I think it's going to escalate. The fact that we're being put second in our own country, and foreign members are being put first for whatever reason. There's obviously a deeper, darker agenda at the forefront here that we're yet to find out. I think we've got a rough idea, but yeah, ordinary people. There's no one in goose stepping or zig hulling or shouting or swearing or ranting or raving. They're just upset and they're scared, because we've now seen in Epping, it's not a case of, well, what if this was to ever happen? It's happened. There's been convictions for sexual assaults on children, and when the children's safety are at stake, that is when the men and women rise. And I, for one, won't be sitting back and remaining silent any longer. When children's safety is at stake, it's our moral obligation to stand up and be counted and do something about it.
Couldn't agree more, Liam. Listen, don't think me rude. Really appreciate you joining us. He works with the Crowborough Community Centre. Liam Tufts there, making the point. And of course, frustration is frustration. Nobody condones anything. But the silent majority, he said it, mothers looking out for their daughters. It is absolutely outrageous. 9 minutes to 9. We're live across the UK. We go to our next guest, the next Mayor of London, if I have anything to do with it. Reform's Layla Cunningham. Layla, good morning.
Hi, Jeremy. How are you?
The woman who makes me look like I can't do childcare. You've probably been up since about 3 a.m, haven't you?
No, my kids are teenagers, Jeremy. You know, they're very, they wake up late. They take themselves to school, very independent.
Oh, I wish I got to that point. Mine don't. But as my wife said the other day, when I finish changing Iris's nappy, I'll end up be doing yours next. That'll be the next thing. Layla,
how old are yours again?
So, 35, 22, 20, 16, 5 and 2.
Wow.
All right, don't start. Listen, it's a different show. Can I just get your response very quickly to that story in Crowborough? This came out as a story in The Sun today, Layla. Unbelievable. Thousands of pounds to be spent by the local council updating old CCTV cameras. They're going to be throughout the town of Crowborough, where, of course, 600 migrants, illegal unvetted men, are about to be housed in that ex-cadet sort of training camp. The people up in arms, because that would tell us, forget surveillance state, I agree with the headline, but that would tell us categorically, right, that they expect trouble, right?
Not even that. I met a lovely couple from Crowborough who've been protesting every single weekend because of that. They used to live in London and they went to live there because they wanted to be off-grid. They wanted to be quiet. Everyone knows everyone. It's a lovely town. It's a lovely village. That, you know, there's no problems, no trouble. And she said she heard this. She said that in the Saturday market, the police were giving away rape alarms. She'd heard it in anticipation of this occurring, and she's absolutely furious. You know, her home, her town, the way of life is going to completely change. And like your previous guest said, who is our government prioritizing?
Yeah. I mean, with Epping, I mean, when they took the local council to court and said that the rights of, you know, illegal migrants were more important to them as a government than the rights of an indigenous population, you're in trouble. And of course, it's a subject that so many people, you know, oh, we can't say that. Well, we can say that. A reform government will say that. A reform government will detain and deport. We've had that discussion on numerous occasions. And how can... It's really interesting to me, and you and I have talked privately, but the way that people say that, detain and deport, you couldn't even mention the word immigration 10 years ago. I believe millions of people have got to a point where they're going, enough is enough, because you're taking the mickey out of us now. You're making us feel unsafe.
You're overriding our rights, you know, and I mean, they won't even call it illegal migration, Jeremy. They'll call it irregular. You know, call it what it is. I argue with people from the Labour side all the time, and they're like, you know, they're not illegal migrants, they're asylum seekers. So they don't even recognise that the men coming here are illegal and shouldn't be here. That's the thing.
I mean, I remember Newsnight last year, Darren Jones going, 90% of them are women and children. The guy's he's obviously blind. It is not women and children. It is young men with no documentation who want to come here and take it. One of the big things, and I've said this to people at Reform privately, the reason they come, by the way, we can talk about securing our borders, is we are as soft as we give away far too much. But the reason I think it's all changing is that maybe that's not been aware to people. But now people, because social services are, you know, social things are so difficult to attain, be it a doctor or whatever it is, that they're now going, so we pay in and these people are being treated better than us. That's the truth.
I mean, yeah, I was on a show where the person said, you know, these illegal migrants don't receive any benefits. And I said, free accommodation in hotels is a benefit. I know so many people who'd like free accommodation. That's some of the British people's biggest expense.
And then you get arguments where social housing is given to migrants ahead of the needy in this country. It's ludicrous. Reform will change that, won't it?
100%. You know, you right now, what you have is you have legislation bedded in from the Tories and Labour that say that social housing must go to those most in need. And that has been interpreted as refugees. So as soon as, when you're an asylum seeker, as soon as that claim is granted, you become a refugee, you go straight to the top of the list. It's maddening. It really is. You know, they've been working it. Our government has been working against us.
Couldn't agree more. I would love, sorry, I know it was a bit of a rush this morning with the kids and life and everything going on. We'd love to have you on more regularly and more often. We appreciate your time very much. Layla Cunningham, who have anything to do with it, will be the next Mayor of London. This is Talk Breakfast.
Some breaking news this morning revealed that under the Terrorist Act, 242 people were arrested in the year to June of this year.
That's something you can indulge in, as to all the people.
The UK on DAB. DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back, my friends. Almost 9 o'clock. Rin Rob Jenrick here after 9. Get your calls in 0344 409 1000 or your text messages. Questions to Rob Jenrick 87222. What a busy hour. I need to sit down. Oh, I am. There's the sort of lady, I'm going to call her the first lady of football. Yesterday, the breaking news that Ruben Amorim was sacked as Manchester United's head coach, not manager, after 14 months. Rumours that he's earned about 20 million quid. You can go and get, a Cantona or a Brian Robson. No. Massive Man United fan, former Lioness, the best in the business. Leanne Sanderson, good morning.
Morning, Jeremy. I like that title, First Lady of Football. I'm liking it. I might have to stick to that.
What did you say to me when I rang you up last night? What you ringing me on this number for? Where'd you get that number from? What are you ringing me on this number for?
Yeah, I know.
You gave it to me, Sanderson. What's the matter with you now? What's going on? You all right?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks. Lovely to see you as always.
And you, my darling. It dominated on a really strange day. Everybody seemed to be sacked yesterday. The Celtic manager, I could have told you that, Nancy, he's gone. Obviously, we had Enzo Maresca. But yesterday, Ruben Amorim, 14 months into a 3-year project under Ineos, Sir Jim Radcliffe, shown the door. You could see it coming. What I thought was really interesting was, did you see the photographs or the footage of him and his wife going out for a stroll in Cheshire after he got binned?
Yeah.
I don't mean to be rude, because it's your club. What an appalling decision that turned out to be, employing him in the first place.
Do you know what, Jeremy? I actually like Ruben, and I actually feel really disappointed. I think it was inevitable when you start falling out with your employers and coming out after the Leeds game, saying what he did in the press conference. The last few months, I've been in a lot of his press conferences, and it's similar to when, when a president becomes a president, you see them 4 years later, they look completely dishevelled, more tired, more grey. And Ruben, when he took over the job, looked fresh-faced. And now look at him. I mean, when he was out walking his dog, last night with his wife, I was like, he looks like a man that's been relieved of a lot of stress. And obviously it does help. He's going to get a £10 million payout. But that's the reality of this situation. When you get sacked, that's not his fault. But I say it all the time, Jeremy, the common denominator is the football club. You can't keep sacking these managers over and over again. The players are nowhere near good enough. We are in sick, but I don't think the Premier League has been anywhere near the levels it has in previous years anyway. But he was almost doomed from when he first got there. I think he's honest and open in his press conferences and when he's talking. But inevitably now, why did they not just get rid of him over the Christmas period? I heard there was some type of argument on Friday, but for me, since Ineos has taken over and Omar Barada and Jason Wilcox, it hasn't worked out. So people
why don't football clubs, take Chelsea. All my family support bloody Chelsea. They've got 400 18-year-olds worth however much money. Is it not right to say, and we ain't got much time, darling, and I really appreciate it coming on, is that football is now looked on as a business? There's too many structures. The old-fashioned manager, Alex Ferguson, Mourinho when he started, Harry Redknapp, the success, Don Revie, all those sort of people, they were in charge and they had success, they had time, right?
Yeah, you've only got to look at Martin O'Neill going back at Celtic. This is a man that hadn't been in managerial for a long time, goes to Celtic. He hasn't done, it's not rocket science. He's allowed the players to play, let them be themselves. I think, football now, footballers, they're too mollycoddled for me. I played for a lot of managers, I didn't like their tactics, but you have to get on with it. It's your job.
I love you coming on. I'm sorry it was so quick. Good luck with everything. She is the First Lady of Football, Leanne Sanderson on Talk. Standing by, Robert Jenrick, Shadow Just Secretary. Ring Rob, 87222. If you would like a question put to Robert Jenrick, but the news at 9 is next on Talk Breakfast.
The journey of me following the migrants went from sort of 10 in the morning, all around the clock, to late at night, to the point where, on buses, on trains, through streets, at every key point, French military police and the French police, they were there. They were on the bus, taking down notes, taking pictures, but not doing anything to deter the migrants or stop them, just being there.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back, my friends. Just gone 9 o'clock. We're live across the UK on the home of common sense and where, yes, the nation does come to talk. And on a Tuesday, every couple of weeks, it comes to speak to the legend that is Robert Jenrick, Shadow Justice Section MP, who just said to me, by the time I'm 50, my kids will have left home and I'll have a life. By the time I'm 60 and I've got a 2-year-old. He said to me, Christian, earlier, that's why the birth rate's dropped, because you've stopped procreating, Kyle.
No, you're doing your bit for the demographics of this country.
Also, let's get this out of the way. Robert Jenrick, serious politician, but a Wolves fan. Just give it to me as a West Ham fan. It's fine. I can deal with it. Wow. We're both pretty
tough times.
Tough times. Thank you for coming in. There's so much I want to talk to you about. I literally want to play a voice note straight out. There was a story in The Sun. We can talk all about Venezuela. We've concentrated this morning on Crowborough in East Sussex, the town, the village, whatever you call it, that is about to house 600 illegal migrants. OK, you know this story. They've moved the cadets who have trained there for years out and gone, we're bringing all these people in. Now, this isn't far-right thuggery. Local residents, women concerned and fathers concerned about the safety of their daughters have taken to the streets and are saying this is unfair. Overnight, The Sun discovers that thousands of pounds, Robert, tens of thousands of pounds has been spent on upgrading all CCTV cameras in the village, which for me says they're expecting trouble. This is Brian talking about it. Morning, Brian.
Good morning, Jezza. It's about the people of Crowborough. Now, I've looked it up, and they are a Conservative safe seat, and their second favourites are the Liberal Democrats. So I find it's a bit ridiculous for the people of Crowborough to be moaning about immigration turning up when they've been voting for it as long as, for the last 20 years. Now, what really pees me off is the people of Crowborough, they didn't do nothing when people were, in the tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands and millions were arriving in places like my constituency, which is a Labour constituency. They kept stum because they thought it wouldn't happen to them. Then it turns up on their doorstep and now they start moaning. People should have more responsibility when they vote. Cheers, mate.
That's an interesting start, Robert Jenrick, but he's not wrong, is he?
Well, I think the British people have been voting consistently, election after election after election, and in the referendum back in the day, for an end to mass migration. And yet what's happened? Government after government of all political colours have ignored them. In fact, sometimes they've stuck two fingers up to the public, and I include the last Conservative government in that. It was elected in 2019, very clear promise to bring down migration. What happened? It went through the roof, and that was an absolute disgrace. I'm the first to say it. What's got to happen now is we've got to stop the small boats from coming in the first place. We can't have thousands and thousands of people crossing into our country, people we know absolutely nothing about. And there is a very clear link between the numbers of people coming across, these young men who are, of fighting age from countries with very, very different attitudes towards women and girls to those of our own country, and crime, in particular sexual crime against women and girls. And not so long ago, you were shouted down for saying that. I said at the beginning of last year that we were importing people with medieval attitudes towards women into the country, and I was told that that was a racist thing to say. I think it's been proven to be correct. And it's no surprise to me that people in Crowborough are extremely worried about what's going to happen.
Can I say to the critics...
Their daughters and their grandkids.
I completely agree. Can I say to the critics who will text me and go, yeah, but Jenrick... And I'm not just saying that because you're a friend. This is a fact. And I always give facts on this show. People will say, Jenrick was part of the government. Robert Jenrick went into the Home Office as the immigration minister and he resigned on principle because he knew that the last Tory government was not doing what it was elected to do. I want to make that point because I think it's really relevant. Rob, James says, does the increase in CCTV suggest to him that the council know these migrants are dangerous?
Of course it does, yeah. And look, we don't have good data on this because successive governments refused to publish it. The last Conservative government, when I was on the backbenches after resigning, I pushed the minister at the time to publish data on crime by nationality, by visa status, by asylum status. They refused to do so. We've tried to push this Labour government to do so. And in fact, Yvette Cooper, when she was Home Secretary, now Shabana Mahmood, they say they're going to, but they never do it, do they? Why? Well, I think because they're covering this up. They don't want to be honest with the public about the link between the people coming into our country, the types of countries they're coming from, and crime. But it is clear, And the indicative data that we have is very striking, that, you know, an Afghan is 20 times more likely to be convicted of a rape or a serious sexual offence than a British national. There are some nationalities, actually, which are less likely to commit crime, you know, Americans, Indians, Japanese, all sorts of things like that. But let's just have an honest debate and do something about it, which would mean, say, not having so many people coming into the country.
When you say an honest debate, Rob, and this is really interesting for me, it's got nothing. Just a quick question from me. I know, and you know, and anybody with a brain cell, one of the main reasons that the Labour Party will not be as forceful as it undoubtedly should be is because it's worried about a certain voter base, the Muslim voter base. They know they lost 5 seats to independents because they stood as independent candidates on Gaza, and they are terrified. I think Wes Streeting's got a 600 majority, right? The Tories, though, let's turn to the Tories. Why were they too scared, unwilling, didn't give a damn or didn't want to do it? You resigned over this principle. Yeah. Why did they not go? The mood of this country necessitates us to do something. Not just talk about it and give me... Rwanda should have happened 10 years earlier if it was right. Why the reticence in your mind?
I think some people, a lot of people in politics, were, and in fact remain, completely removed from the reality of mass migration. And was it Brian who was the first caller that you had who spoke about what was happening in Crowborough, you know, a kind of leafy part of the country, and compared it to wherever he lives. And a lot of Tory politicians were so insulated from this. It wasn't them that had the asylum hotels next door to them. It wasn't their kids that couldn't get on the social housing waiting list because of the new arrivals. They didn't see it. Maybe they didn't walk the streets of parts of Birmingham or Bradford or Tower Hamlets and saw how much the place had changed in such a short period of time. Well, that's the problem. Too many politicians and parts of the media are insulated from the real challenge this is posing to our country. I think that's changing because this problem is spreading throughout the whole country. People are wising up to how serious this is and how profound an impact it is on the country. But it is a disgrace, frankly, that the Lasker government got itself into this mess and has created such problems for the country. What we can do now is look to the future and try and ensure we don't make this any worse.
Good answer. This is going to Harrow on the phone. Rajit, you through to Robert Jennery. Good morning. Welcome to Talk Breakfast.
Yes, good morning. Good morning, Robert. I've been disgusted by this Chagos surrender deal. You know, that's giving up 250,000 square miles of ocean territory, about 10% of British overseas territories. I mean, it's just so awful. Should governments in the future stop, create legislations to stop the British government giving away sovereign territories as kind of international political footballs?
Yeah, look, absolutely. This is a total and utter disgrace. What's happening here is sovereign British territory that has been ours for hundreds of years is being handed away to Mauritius, which is an ally of China. We're compromising an incredibly important strategic military base.
Why?
Why? Because Keir Starmer and his friends, like Lord Hermer, the Attorney General, Philippe Sands, his old pal from the law, have had a very long-standing view that we should be giving this up to satisfy our obligations under international law. But it's completely bogus. The judgment that they're relying on to do this was a non-binding judgment, so an international court with judges from places like Russia and China on it, told the UK to do this, but have no power to enforce it. And so we're going to roll over, hand over our territory, billions of pounds
that we can't
for the
afford.
privilege, which we clearly can't afford. So hard-pressed Brits are going to be paying for this for generations to come. And what have you seen in the last couple of days with the situation in Venezuela? International law doesn't mean that much in a world where you've got authoritarian states like Russia and Iran and China. We're living in a multipolar world, a dangerous world in which what really matters is strength. It's hard power, it's military, it's economic power. That's what matters. And you've got a Prime Minister at the helm of our country who somehow thinks that by showing our respectability or by trying to embellish our moral authority on the international stage, that countries like China are going to think more of us for that.
This is complete
rubbish.
Rajit, Rob's right, isn't he? I mean, somebody gave me this stat when we gave 16 billion and the Chagos Islands to Mauritius. The Mauritian people, Rajit, for the next 12 to 18 months won't pay me any income tax and the national debt has gone. How bad is that to the British people, man?
I kind of agree. I think that the government is doing such terrible things to this country, but this Chagos policy is one of the things that will be irreversible compared to many of their other policies.
Yeah, look, I think that point is very important, that there's a lot of harm happening in the country right now. People feel like the country's in a mess. The economy is bumping along the bottom.
Our international standings
but there are
in the
some things that
toilet.
can be turned around. You know, I do believe that economies can be fixed, and you can get catch-up growth where things get back pretty fast. But there are some things that are frankly irreversible. If you give away sovereign territory, it's very difficult, probably impossible ever to get that back, and that's what's such a crying shame. We have to continue to fight that. In the House of Lords last night,
But I was going to say,
it's very rare that I rush to praise.
My God, Robert
their
Henrik and I are
lordships.
born of the same cloth. I have long thought that the Lords get, sorry to say this, £365 a day. I don't understand it. I've never been a massive fan. Last night, ladies and gentlemen, the Lords downed 4 votes on this. They might well tell the Labour government where to go.
They may be able to frustrate this, and you know, all power to their elbow.
Thank you very much indeed, Roger. Keep your calls coming. 0344 499 1000. Yesterday, this is really interesting. We have you on video. One of the Calamity Lammy, your successor as Justice Secretary. I mean, not a day goes by when he doesn't mess up. You were talking yesterday about more prisoner escapes. Have a watch. This is Robert yesterday.
So a murderer is on the loose. A murderer and a violent offender. Once again, the Justice Secretary's strongest ever checks have been a resounding failure. And once again, there's a manhunt underway. Precious police resources are being wasted to fix Calamity's latest cock-up. And where is the Justice Secretary? The Ministry of Justice seems to lose its Secretary of State as much as it does its prisoners.
A bit of background. A murderer who absconded from jail on New Year's Day has a long history of violence, including towards prison staff, and has just got out. What does this say about our entire prison justice? The whole thing's a mess like so much else.
Well, it's a total shambles. You know, a prisoner is being accidentally released pretty much every other day now.
How?
And the most astonishing thing about this one is he's a murderer. The police put out a statement saying that he's a dangerous man and shouldn't be approached if you come across him. Why was he in an open prison then? If he's so dangerous, why was he able to just walk out the door? I mean, it's astonishing.
It's more than astonishing.
The Ministry of Justice and the Parole Board, who came to this decision to take him out of a proper prison and put him into, you know, an open prison where he could just walk the streets of the local community, have got really serious questions to answer.
Sometimes I feel sorry for you because, of course, however much you try and look to the future, you'll always get slaughtered for the past. Bill's in Manchester. He said, very straight question to Robert Henrik. Why did your Conservative government also attempt to bring back the British Egyptian activist Alaa Abd El Fattah? Background, Starmer has told the BBC he regrets welcoming this guy following the emergence of those old media posts that were sort of what kill Zionists, basically. The Tory party also called for this guy to be returned. Bill in Manchester, I think a relevant question.
Well, it was worse than that. The last Conservative government gave him citizenship, which is the root of the whole problem. Look, I was one of the first to call this out over Christmas, and it took me about 15 minutes to look through his social media and find the appalling things he said, the anti-Semitism, the Holocaust denial, the anti-British, anti-white racism that he was spewing from social media. This man should never have got citizenship in the first place, and it beggars belief that British prime ministers and foreign secretaries were going to Egypt and trying to secure this man's release and safe passage to the UK, as if this is a priority for the UK. I went to Egypt in the autumn of 2023 as immigration minister to meet the Interior Minister and the Defence Minister there, trying to get them to take back the foreign criminals that were in our jails and the people who are coming across on small boats who were Egyptian nationals, and begin the negotiation on that. And I was told by some of our diplomats out there that this was important, but they didn't have very much capacity. They were trying to work on a lot of other things. I was like, well, with hindsight, did they really think that this was more important than tackling illegal migration?
How did you last as long as you did in that
Well, I wonder that.
serious.
I wonder that sometimes. But look, I think some of our diplomats and the Foreign Office have lost touch with what are the actual priorities of the British people. If you're in Egypt as a diplomat, what do the British people care about? Well, they care about security, because there's terrorists there. They care about illegal migration. They don't want any Egyptians crossing over to the UK on small boats. And they probably care about trade and a bit of tourism. They're not interested in all this other, frankly, BS, We should not be bringing people like this into the country. He's here now. The most important thing is we use the powers that we have to revoke his citizenship, which we can do that. You've seen with Shamima Begum that the court in our own country will uphold decisions by Home Secretaries to do that, and then he should be deported back to Egypt, or frankly anywhere else. I don't care. I don't want this man walking the streets of our country, enjoying all the privileges of living in the UK, when he clearly hates our country.
Absolutely hates. 9:20, Robert Jenrick is here. It's Ring Rob. We've got calls, we've got texts, we've got emails. Take 3, Mr. Jenrick. We'll be back. Coming back.
The UK on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back, my friends. 9:25. You would talk breakfast. Jeremy Kyle till 10 ahead of Julia Hartley-Brewer and Ring Rob. Robert Jenrick is here. Straight back to it, Rob. I've just given you, one of the most extraordinary tweets. Starmer's been getting it from all angles. Overnight, this is on X Twitter. This year, you will start to feel our promise of change. I can't do the voice. £150 off the average energy bill from April. Your public services will be improved. Your community will see more funding. We are restoring local pride. We are getting Britain back on track. Overnight, a thing called a community note, which is when they basically say, you're lying, was put. It's important to note that when Labour first promised a 300 reduction, energy bills capped was $15.70. Today it's $17.58. The £150 reduction means bills will still be higher. Hannah in London says, Starmer, Rob Jenrick, has been community noted over his lower energy bills claim. Have you ever been community noted?
Probably. We do try and not get community noted. So I
don't even know what it is.
I can't think of an example where we have been, but I can't promise that it was never happened. But he's completely deluded. These tweets that he puts out.
Does he put them out?
They are
some
sort of
comms
they are
person
delulu.
do it?
They must be a comms person. I don't think he's doing them himself. Even he must have the self-awareness not to put this stuff out. But on the most important point is I don't think he understands how hard the cost of living crisis actually is. Look, there's people all across the country, all ages, who are suffering right now, feel that the economy is bouncing along the bottom, everyone's getting poorer, wages are not really rising, all our bills are going up. And what are they doing? Well, next to nothing. They're putting up taxes, so it's even harder, so unemployment is going up, and they're doing nothing to tackle energy. if anything, they're doing all the wrong things, aren't they? So
I'm really
this sort of,
outspoken,
this obsession that Ed Miliband has with net zero is just meaning that our energy bills are getting higher.
I've
and
never
higher.
understood it. I don't know if I've said it to you before, but to me it's really, really simple. So you're basically taking our farmers' land, because they provide the food, in a land grab to build windmills, those wind farms, right, windmills, to create solar energy. But we know that that doesn't create enough, so then you import it from abroad, which costs more, which sends your bills up. But even more frightening is if it blows that much, we can't store it, and it costs even more to turn them off. It's an ideology on which I think this country is going to be financially bankrupt. I can't see any other. It's ridiculous.
It is, and historians are going to look back on this period as one where we did immense harm to our country. It's been a period of economic suicide, really, where we're deindustrialising the country. We're losing what little remains of our heavy industries, which are energy intensive, like steel, glass, chemicals, fertilisers, ceramics, you name it. And we're going to just be importing all this from other countries like China, which are cornering the market. So we're trading a car made in Sunderland for one made in China. It's completely crazy. And, it's epitomised by the decision to stop more oil and gas in the North Sea, where you create jobs, you have tax revenues.
It's liquid gold. I'm not trying to sound like Trump. It's there. It's ours.
Well, it's there. It's ours. Obviously, we should make use of what natural resources we have as a country. They're not as much as we would like, but we've got to make use of every last bit of it. And instead, we are importing gas from the Norwegian part of the North Sea instead of the British part of the North Sea. It is completely crazy.
Doesn't make any sense, man.
And it is an act of economic self-harm.
We're going to go to Brighton. Paul wants to talk about controlling our borders. Paul, you're through to Robert Jenrick. Good morning.
Yeah, hello, Robert. Hello, Jeremy. I've just driven along Brighton seafront, and it's a beautiful day, and there's a mill pond in the English Channel, so no doubt there'll be more boats crossing today. I'm glad that Robert acknowledged the failure of the Conservatives to control their borders. What I'd like to see is Starmer put under more pressure as to why he's continuing to, in his failure to control their borders. And perhaps, in a slightly tongue-in-cheek way, perhaps Kemi Badenoch at next question time could ask Mr Starmer, when he's sitting in the Emirates Stadium every other week watching his beloved Arsenal, and he's being fawned over and feted by all and sundry there, whether he has a pang of conscience when he sees flashing around the Emirates advertising, visit Rwanda every 5 minutes.
It's very true, Rob. It's a great question.
No, look, absolutely. I mean, it's such an irony that you've got an Arsenal fan who got Rwanda on the shirt, and yet Starmer's cancelled the scheme, and other countries around the world are going to take them up on it now, like the United States and even potentially European countries as well, like Germany, are interested in doing so. The tragedy of the situation is that, although it's not easy to fix the small boats crisis, no one pretends that, we do know some of the answers.
Yeah.
And they are that you've got to take away these human rights laws, which have got completely out of control now, twisted out of any resemblance of what they began, and ensure that when people come here, they're detained and deported swiftly.
Do you think that the Tories
merry-go-round.
are holding Starmer's, I mean, this is his question, Paul, feet to the fire enough? Do you think the Tories could be more, or everybody,
Well, I think
more
we
in
could
Starmer's face?
There's always more that we can do. A problem that the Conservative Party has is that it has its own track record to contend with, which was clearly not good enough.
Yeah.
And so the Tory party doesn't have as much credibility on this issue as I would like. But you've got to look to the future now and learn from those mistakes and be clear that we do know, broadly speaking, what the answer to this is, which is leave the European Convention on Human Rights, to end the merry-go-round of legal claims that prevent you from detaining and deporting people, and get on and do that. So no one who comes here illegally...
So reform a right,
claim
detain and
asylum.
Deport.
Absolutely, absolutely. That is the only way that you'll fix this. And everything else, all these distractions like ID cards and so on, look, they might make a tiny bit of difference around the edges, but that's not going to fix this thing. The people who are trying to come to the UK are very determined. It's now a multi-billion-pound criminal enterprise. The pull factors of the UK are always going to be huge. That's a compliment to our country.
Yeah, of course it is.
Millions of people around the world want to come to the UK. The only way you'll fix this once and for all is that everyone is detained and deported. And the sooner that Starmer comes to that conclusion, I don't think he ever will, frankly, but the sooner that he does, the better, because then we can stop these wasted years where thousands of people are coming into the country.
Paul in
costing us
Brighton,
all this
thank you.
money.
Let's head to the Wirral North. Robert to Robert. Quick as you can, Robert. You're through to Robert Jenrick. Good morning.
Robert, good morning. In Minnesota, in the United States, there's an industrial scale fraud going on regarding food banks, food programs and learning centres, childcare. Do you think that this industrial scale type of fraud could be replicated here in the UK?
Yeah, very interesting question. Well, I've been watching what's happening in the US, and it's shocking there. I do think there might be some parallels in the UK, yes, where people are claiming benefits, but actually might be based somewhere else in the world, or are claiming benefits and then sending it to relatives elsewhere because perhaps they don't actually need it here. So I think there are things that we should be alive to here and learn lessons from that scandal. Sometimes we're too fast to just allow these things to happen because we don't want to tackle difficult issues.
Thank you.
It's been good, the scandal in the US at highlighting that.
Good to highlight that, Robin the Wirral. Thank you. Quickly, Susan in South Wales. Starmer, this is really important. He's trying to forge closer ties to the EU. We heard about the single market stuff. Do you, Robert Jenrick and the Tories, see this as a Brexit betrayal? Does he have a mandate to do it?
Well, he definitely doesn't have a mandate to do it, let's be clear, because he said he wasn't going to change our relationship when he stood at the election, but they've broken a lot of manifesto promises, not least winter fuel and the farmers and taxes on working people. The important point here is the economy is doing very badly. We've got a stagnating economy. How do you fix that? Yep. How do you create some economic growth again in this country? Starmer thinks that one way to do that is to shackle us to the EU. Now, there might be some short-term benefit. It might be a little bit easier for our businesses to trade with the EU. But we give up the opportunity to make the UK really competitive by having less regulation for the industries of the future, like technology, biosciences, financial services.
But you said shackles. Wouldn't a better philosophy, and I'm not like you lot, I'm not as switched on, but if you're going to create a government that says to small and medium businesses, which I think are the lifeblood of a community because they create money, they create jobs, it permeates down, people benefit. If you're screwing with NI rises and workers' rights, you are destroying the very essence of how you make an economy work, aren't you? Look, why don't you encourage business?
If you wanted to get growth going in this country, you would not be increasing national insurance so that businesses can't apply. And we see that because unemployment is rising month after month after month. But on the EU question, that there's two philosophies here, really. One is we've left, but you know what, let's just have the closest possible relationship with the EU. So we're basically part of the EU, and yet we have no control over what it's saying or doing.
And how are they going to treat us as having walked away?
Exactly. Then we're kind of like a vassal state of the EU. There was no point in Brexit. We're actually in a worse position. The alternative is that, yes, we have a strong and productive trading relationship with them, but we also build competitive advantage by having a better regulatory regime, trying to be as competitive as possible. So an international business wants to set up in the UK, not in France or Germany, or a startup knows that they'll be able to prosper here because we've got a smarter regulatory environment. That is the vision of Brexit that I want to see. Have we done enough of that? No, absolutely not. We've wasted a lot of the opportunities so far of Brexit, but that is the way that we can make the UK a richer country in the years ahead. And some of the things Starmer wants to do alongside this are completely mad. Like he wants to recreate the Erasmus student exchange scheme, which is going to lead to more EU students coming here than Brits go overseas. So that's just going to be a massive cost. And he wants to create these youth mobility schemes, which mean a lot of European young people coming to live and to work in the UK, just at a time when youth unemployment is rising in the UK. Young people can't get a Saturday job.
No.
Young graduates are struggling to get jobs when they leave good universities right now. The last thing we want is Spanish or French or Hungarian students coming and taking those jobs when British young people desperately need them.
Loads of very quick questions. Alison in Kent, the Duke of Sussex has won his fight for armed police protection when he visits the UK. Do you believe we, the British taxpayer, should pay? Robert Jenrick.
Well, I tend to take a pretty dim view of Prince Harry and his wife. I think they've let the country down and let the royal family down, to be honest. So I'm not an enthusiast for the taxpayer funding them, but of course I want people to be safe when they
Great
come
answer.
to the UK.
You could be Prime Minister. Do you believe that Donald Trump broke international law with his capture of Maduro from Venezuela? Big story overnight because recently, 2 hours ago, his Deputy Chief of Staff, Stephen Miller, declares that Greenland should be part of the US. So you, like me, I think Maduro is a despot. I don't know why the left wing cozy up to him, but you do worry, I worry, about what happens in Venezuela afterwards. I happen to think a lot of it's rhetoric from Trump, but I don't know. What are your thoughts?
Well, I'm glad to see the back of Maduro. He was obviously a despotic character who had no mandate to run the country and was fueling the international drug trade, which was importing drugs and killing people.
Come on, it's about oil.
Well, it's also Trump has had actually a long record of worrying about fentanyl and drugs being imported into the US and the deaths that are happening there and elsewhere in the world. I don't know what the legal basis is for this. It's very hard to see one. But I also believe that at the end of the day, international law is a bit of a mirage. You know, it's based on strength. What really matters in the world today is economic and military power. So if you
do you think it's right that he went into Greenland, into Venezuela, and do you fear that he'll go into Greenland?
I think it's completely understandable, their decision. You know, they do not want to have a dictator who is fueling the drug trade and was entertaining Chinese dignitaries on
is
the
Greenland,
very day.
All right, OK, but is Greenland understandable? If Stephen Miller, the Deputy Chief of Staff, says it is?
You've got to defend the integrity of Greenland, which is, you know, is a sovereign territory of Denmark. You can't have a situation where the United States is threatening them. But what hasn't been reported, I think, so well in the UK is why is the United States interested in Greenland? And that's because in the years ahead, you know, the rest of our lifetimes, the area around the Arctic is going to become an incredibly important and contested space in which China and Russia are going to be increasingly active as global temperatures rise. You know, the ice caps start to melt. There'll be opportunities for the Chinese and the Russians to find new paths through the Arctic, enabling them to get closer to Europe, to the United States. And so if you care about the security of the United States and the West more generally, you're going to have to ensure that areas like Greenland and the Arctic are properly secured, and we don't allow them to fall into the hands of our adversaries.
Imagine if
Russia and China.
if we ran Greenland, he'd just give it away, wouldn't he, Starmer? Three really quick questions.
We do actually have an historic claim to Greenland. We do, yes.
Right. The petition...
No, I'm not advocating that we go and invade Greenland.
Absolutely not. No,
but we do have an interesting claim.
The petition for do not introduce official ID has risen to nigh on 3 million. Would the Tories vote against this dictatorial move?
Absolutely.
Tim, that was, yeah. OK.
Yep.
Couple of quick questions. Morning, both. Wasn't Mr Jenrick a Remainer? Has he changed his mind, Tony?
Yeah, I do think that was a mistake. I do think it was a mistake.
One of the few politicians that will admit you do that.
It was very finely balanced for me. I wasn't one of those people who woke up crying the next day, and in fact I threw myself into implementing it. But I do think it was a mistake, and the economics obviously have proven to be contested because, as we just said, I don't think we've taken advantage of the opportunities. But the sovereignty question has become ever more important to me, and not least on the question of immigration, although of course the last Conservative government didn't use the powers that we had. In fact, they did precisely the opposite. They allowed more people into the country. But it's going to be incredibly important in the years ahead that we have the control of our borders and the ability to make decisions about who comes into this country. And so that is something that I think will stand the test of time and be very valuable to the UK.
A nice one, but a harsh one. Jenrick sitting there bemoaning net zero. Let's not forget it was Theresa May's flagship policy to begin this madness.
Yeah, disastrous decision.
I just love the honesty.
That came about because...
But you voted for it.
Actually, I didn't vote for it, but that wasn't because I voted against it. I just didn't happen to be in Parliament that day. I was travelling as a minister, but I was sceptical of it at the time, and it essentially happened because Theresa May was coming to the end of her premiership, the last couple of weeks, and she was in search of a legacy. And so she passed through Parliament.
Her legacy is destroying the police forces in this country.
Disastrous policy of net zero 2050.
Right, final question. You've been amazing. I have to tell you that one of the saddest stories today is that British Airways is axing the full English for business class customers.
I'm disappointed by that. I mean, it was never that good. Not that I was regularly...
Minister of the Crown didn't like the cooked breakfast on British Airways. Tomorrow, you'll get a continental plate.
Well, I don't want that. I don't want that. We need
that horrible dry croissant.
Can we start a petition to save the full English?
The airline said the measures are not a cost-cutting exercise. My next guest, Harry Cole, loves a full English backwards and forwards across the
he's
Atlantic.
probably more likely to be in business class on BA than I am.
Are you saying that he looks like he's eaten a lot of full Englishes?
Oh, that's not true. He's playing squash now,
They say it would allow crews more time to chat. Now, I don't know about you. I don't want to be talked to by some insignificant
I just want my
person.
full English.
I want a full English.
I like waking up on a plane and having a full English, don't you? All right, we're going to save the full English.
Save the full English.
This is a campaign like that one that Margaret Thatcher did to stop them taking the Union Jack off the
Falkland Islands.
Off the tail of the planes.
Imagine somebody.
To scrap that.
Imagine a Prime Minister sticking up for Great Britain. We love having you on. I know you're going to come back in a couple of weeks, and it's become a regular feature. And we love your honesty. Robert Jenrick, Shadow Justice Secretary.
Very nice to see you.
He's off to have a day and do his bit.
I'm going to have a full English.
Go and have that full English. And Harry Cole's next on Talk Breakfast. See you in 3.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This.
Welcome back, my friends. 8:45, or even 10. We're live across the United Kingdom, the Jeremy Kyle Breakfast Show on the home of free speech and common sense. Thank you to Robert Jenrick, Shadow Justice Secretary. You have to say, like or loathe the Tories, the man resigned as immigration minister. He has principles and he comes on here and he answers your questions. Every couple of weeks we'll do it again. That was Ring Rob. This is Howdy Harry.
Howdy doodly.
Howdy do. Harry Cole back from the United States of America, baby.
For 1 week only.
What's going... honestly, you parade around this building like... You're called editor at large. Large editor. How's it going stateside? Are you loving life?
Never a dull day. I mean...
Do you like it or not, seriously?
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing. It's an incredible country.
You know, I was there for 3 years. I loved it.
Just the sort of attitude towards kind of... Everyone's got a side hustle. Everyone's doing. Even
the president.
Even the president. It's president's sons, especially.
Yeah.
Everyone's doing. Just looking for a bit of dollar, making a bit of coin. Everyone's looking for an edge.
Looking a bit of dollar. Let's go straight to the situation that's dominated the news. Into Venezuela, Donald Trump. I mean, extraordinary extraction and a military operation of unbelievable success. I jokingly said yesterday, encouraged by several listeners, that I would love nothing more than the American Secret Service to come into Downing Street under the cover of darkness and remove him in his Mr. Men pyjamas and take him to Guantanamo Bay. Obviously, pros and cons to Venezuela. People have said this is more about oil, this is wrong, this is right, the man's a dictator, the left have said. We had the Trump's Deputy Chief of Staff, Stephen Miller, 2 hours ago declaring that Greenland should be part of the US. That's dangerous.
Yeah, and I've written about this in the Sun this morning. Look, I've never not enjoyed seeing a commie perp walk to, gagged and bagged in the middle of the night and paraded into
gagged and bagged.
I think it's the official.
I'm not going into that, mate. Is that double bagged or what we're talking about? Yeah.
But gagged and bagged and marched into a courtroom to face their crimes. No one can complain about that. As you say, it was a well-executed operation. Yes, we need to look at what happens next. And actually, the same people that 96 hours ago was screaming about Maduro being taken out are now having a go that, they haven't taken out more of the regime. They haven't taken out more of these people. But we've learnt the lessons, I think, from regime change in Libya, in Syria, in Iraq, in Afghanistan, that, if you do these things quickly and then leave, a vacuum is created.
That's the problem for me.
I think, actually, these things need to be done incrementally. And actually, there's people screaming, "Oh, well, when are we having elections?" Like, well, the dust hasn't even settled.
But there was gunfire overnight and explosions,
yes, totally.
And you do, like me, wonder what happens in the aftermath.
Yes, but I do think, actually, softly, softly, catchy monkey, right? You can't, I think it's quite clever that Donald Trump didn't immediately endorse the conservative, more conservative-leaning opposition, because that's the quickest way to turn the army against them.
Yeah.
Keep the army on board, keep the regime, structures on board, and do this thing slowly. Don't run before you can walk. Maduro, the world is a better place without Maduro.
No, couldn't agree more. And it's what happens next.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you, you live now in DC and work in DC. What's your feeling about the Americans' response to this? The American people, not the administration. I mean, is it split as Donald Trump splits opinion in America?
No, I don't think it is. I think it's broadly welcomed. I think there are 10 million South Americans living in places like Florida that were dancing in the streets at this. I imagine Miami's been quite a party town for the last. I think the idea that Florida is ever going to be a swing state again. I think the Republicans and people like Marco Rubio are going to really benefit from this. The people that hate Donald Trump anyway. They're going to scream and scream and scream until they're sick, as they always do, regardless. One thing it might do is give his critics and enemies a sort of flag to coalesce around, to stick to beat him with. But broadly, I think the only people screaming about this are the people that hate him. Anyway, takes you to that point of Greenland, and I write in the paper today, look, take the win. You've done, stick to taking out commies, taking out the Cubans next. That'll be a welcome move, I think, to end that sort of horrible half-century experiment in human suffering. Greenland is, however, a NATO ally. It is it is already on the good guys' team, I think, as Wes Streeting kind of painfully put it this morning. But he has a point. I do think there is. So what we're seeing now is that Trump is reasserting that it is about oil, but it's also about power, and it's about backyards. And it's Trump saying, "Look, I control the Western Hemisphere. This is where this is my way or the highway." America is still the biggest, sheriff in town, just about. But that is his backyard. I wonder, Marco Rubio came out the other night and said, what happened in Venezuela shows that, when Donald Trump says something, he means it.
Don't call him a coward.
Don't call him a coward. And yeah, there might be a bit of element of political psyops, going on here. But we need to listen to him when he does talk about Greenland. I wonder whether he's going to try and buy it.
Interesting.
Rather than use force.
Let's bring it domestically, because our inept Prime Minister has sat on the fence. He's got. This is him. This was a brilliant. Beth Rigby from Sky just wouldn't let go. Have a watch. Have a listen.
France, Spain, Canada, Germany, as well as the UN Secretary-General, have all said that the US has violated international law. Has the US violated international law?
Well, international law is really important. It's the framework, and it's for the US to set out its justifications for the actions that it's taken. But it is a complicated situation. It remains a complicated situation.
So you're not going to say whether you think
the most important thing is stability and that peaceful transition to democracy. That's what matters to Venezuela above all else, and that was the position we took before the weekend. It's still our position now.
So you're not going to say whether you think think they have or haven't, just to be clear?
I'm going to be clear that I believe in international law. I've long been an advocate for international law. I'm absolutely clear that is the framework that applies. Okay. Obviously, it'll be for the US to set out their justification in relation to the action that they have taken.
You don't want to call it out?
Harry Cole, a great column in The Sun today. Can I ask you, does that look like he's being interviewed in a daycare centre for deranged nutters, or in fact does it look like a cabinet meeting?
I think he's enjoying the situation less than Maduro at the moment, because this gets the absolute crux, the essence of the dilemma at the heart of Keir Starmer, Prime Minister, is that he spent his entire life worshipping at the altar of this mythical idea of supernatural powers, of international law, of human rights, of a greater good, of a post-war age where actually vibes and morals and pieces of paper matter more than force and reality. And what you see now is you see him watching everything he believes crash on the rocks beneath him as he tries to cling to power, he tries to cling to relevance on the world stage, and he watches everything he believes, and he has to sort of dispute, he has to sort of walk away from everything he's ever
No, but to me that
supported.
shows you what his big problem is.
And that's what
he has all this ideology, becomes Prime Minister, and he patently has to work at the relationship with Donald Trump.
Of course he does.
And you're right, and so I said it during the election. The man, to me, there's no DNA. I don't care if I disagree with him. I'd still like him to have a bloody opinion. I believe that he believes it.
And he can't, exactly that. He can't say what he actually... Obviously, he thinks this is an illegal raid on a sovereign nation, but he won't say it. And obviously, behind the scenes, we've got, we're getting tiptoeing towards, hopefully, some sort of peace accord in Ukraine, and he's negotiating heavily with the other European leaders, with the White House on American underwriting of that peace agreement. And so, obviously, he doesn't want to upset the apple cart. But this is the problem with Keir Starmer, is it's the same on the boats. He knows what needs to be done. He knows that we need to leave the ECHR if we're ever going to stop the boats. We know that we're going to have to, push international maritime law to the extreme if we're ever going to actually take control of the English Channel. But he can't do it, because it goes against everything he believes in.
It goes against everything he believes in, or the reality is his party would lose, he would be in free fall and be thrown out.
Well,
so it's more about self-survival. That's what I'm trying to say.
He's stuck between a rock and a hard place.
But that's his own fault.
He's bleeding out. Someone made a really interesting point the other day that actually the Tory party spoke really hard, governed, they would sort of governed from the left that actually spoke right, and the Tories are doing the same. Right. So the Labour are doing the same thing, and actually, they're governing. If you actually look at Keir Starmer's government, what he's doing some pretty left-wing things, but he's talking like he's a right-winger. So actually, he doesn't really need to pivot to the left to try to just shore up his flank. He's already there.
Unclear Keir, it says on my thing.
Unclear Keir.
So the excellent Harry Cole's column is in The Sun today. His great show, Harry Cole Saves the West, is on tonight from what time?
No, we're on YouTube this week. But no, we're sort of experimenting a little bit with a bit of longer form interviews, a bit of stuff.
Robert Jenrick and I are on tomorrow night, aren't we?
I think, Robert Jenrick hopefully is on. Jeremy Kyle always has a seat saving the West. No one has done more to save the West.
Well, there you go. Full English, British Airways axing full English breakfast for business class passengers. I think this could well be from an illegal migrant, this text. Mr. Kyle, the full English on BA Business was nothing like the superb steaming plate of bacon, sausages, eggs, baked beans, hash browns and black pudding that I got in a 4-star hotel this morning.
I'm going to go and investigate what I haven't had it for a long time, but the full English on floor 17 of
Floor 17, we're here.
Oh, no, floor 14.
Do you know what you said to me yesterday? I said, have you not been to the canteen? And you went, it's a bit feral, and went out and got a sandwich. I love it. We'll see you tomorrow night. Excellent, by the way. Excellent column in The Sun today. The legend is Harry Cole, who will save the West. You can catch it on YouTube. We're back in 3.
Across the UK. On DAB+. On YouTube. On your mobile. And on your side. This is Talk.
I love this music. 2 minutes to 10. We're live across the UK. The Jeremy Kyle Breakfast Show is nearly over for day 2. And the First Lady of Westminster, the First Lady of Talk. I wish she was my First Lady, Julia Hartley-Brewer. My wife said, do you know when we did that first thing? After the Queen had died, we did that television show, and I went home and she went, I couldn't work out whether you wanted to fight her or sleep with her.
Yeah, I was going with fight on my side, but there we are. Anyway, Mr. Kyle, lovely to see you.
You ever had a
once again.
community note on X? Because you do that stuff. Have you ever had that?
Yes, I did. Apparently I had one yesterday. I put out a clearly joke post about people handing in their free Palestine flags for their free Venezuela flags, as usual.
Which I think is quite relevant, yeah.
Exactly. With a wink as an emoji, as in I'm clearly taking the mixing. This was spotted outside Downing Street, this protest. And I apparently got community noted.
But you were trying to be funny. Starmer was overnight.
No, I wasn't trying to be funny.
You are funny. You Starmer saying 150 quid off the average energy bill overnight as a tweet has got a community. He's even lying on X.
I know. No, he lies on X all the time.
I know.
Well, at least he has the guts to actually let people reply to his tweets. I mean, Sadiq Khan.
Who?
No one. Yeah, exactly. No one can reply to his.
He's definitely.
By the way, I know this is terrible. A lot of people will disagree with me. I'm so pleased that my parents are not going to get free tube and bus fare, or free tube fare in London. They're gonna stop the over 65s getting.
You know what I'm going to say to that.
It really annoys me. People who don't need it getting.